Put me in North Carolina. Put me in places where you can actually learn about who you are.
So you really have sort of an attraction and a connection to the South, don't you, a little bit?
Yeah,
some of our greatest writers are from the South. Edgar Allan Poe.
Some of our greatest broadcasters are from the South.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Red Barber, Arnie Harwell.
Yeah. And you know what that's attributed to? Well, specifically baseball.
Yeah,
because baseball is one of those things where you can just have to spend an afternoon, spin a yarn, sit down and talk a little bit. Because in the South, like in Georgia, you know what they do in Georgia is they sit on the porch and drink their iced tea, and then they tell some stories, and it's handed down. Like you have kids and grandkids are all on this huge porch, and there's either dad or granddad that is just telling a long, drawn-out, well-detailed story. And that's sort of what morphs and leads them into a career in broadcasting. But in baseball, where those sort of stories and that sort of like easy to listen to, mellifluous type of tone is apropos. Great way to start Warriors this week, huh?
Well, I was going to say also when it comes to basketball, there's a little less time for storytelling, but the narrative over the course of the season for the Warriors has changed a million times. Like I was actually reading this article earlier this week about how one of the reasons why people feel like sports media is taking a bit of a dive is because there's less up-and-coming journalists, traditionally trained journalists, and the reason being is because they're too expensive to keep. You're just going to pay all these ex-players, you're going to pay top-end talent, and much like our country, the middle class kind of gets filtered out. And so there's less people that have been able to develop the ability to tell stories. And if you're going to try and tell the story of the Golden State Warriors this season, I don't really know how you do it, because there at one point was a 12-3 start, in which, well, actually you weren't buying into, but I feel like a lot of people were. And then they took a dive off a cliff, and we were discussing what they were going to do with the remainder of Curry's career, and if they had to blow this thing up, or if they had to rebuild it, or they had to push all their chips in. And essentially, they pushed some of their chips in and got this lightning rod in Jimmy Butler, who now is, I think, the owner of a 23-6 record when he's on the floor. The Warriors went 23-7 to finish the regular season. And now they still got to fight to get out of the play-in, because the Western Conference, about 3 through 8, is full of parity. So telling the story of the Warriors season, someone could write a book about this 1 year, and it's not even finished yet.
No. The most important chapter, the epilogue, is still to be written, because there could be another shoe that drops where this ebb and flow and the seesaw of a season, when we start with the high and the 12-3 start, and then the low of lows where they were a sub-500 team and one of the worst in the NBA for nearly 3 months, and then Jimmy Butler comes on board and they're very good. And the question now becomes, is this going to be a team that just peters out in the postseason? I hate to go there to start the show, but if they have to play in that play-in tournament, I've maintained this all along. Rest is vital for this team. More than any other team that's vying for the postseason, the Golden State Warriors need a week off. It'll determine everything as to whether or not they have a puncher's chance of getting to the Western Conference Finals and or, again, getting back to the NBA Finals. However, it's not the end of the world if they go in as a 7 seed.
Oh, Steve Kerr?
Because was that what Kerr was saying?
Yeah. He said essentially they got 3 play-in games to get to the playoffs.
Well, if you go in as a 7 seed, you have home court advantage, but you got to win that game. You have to win that game against Memphis. And then you still might get 4 days off. What?
I thought OKC was a team that you could catch this year.
You can beat them.
Oh, well then, I mean, why not go 2 times into the play-in?
Because, well, listen, maybe I should qualify that.
There you go.
If you're the Warriors and you have to play OKC, which means you would have played 2 play-in games, you ain't beating OKC. That's how important the rest is to them.
Well, I think that no matter what, it's going to be really difficult for the Warriors to make a deep run in the playoffs, and one of the reasons is the game that we saw against San Antonio, and even a little bit last night against Portland. Portland didn't play a lot of their players. They beat them primarily with their defense, but I just feel like the Warriors, the war of attrition is the biggest question for me. Can they win the war of attrition? Because they have played a lot of high quality but taxing basketball over the last 2 months. And I thought it came and sort of reared its ugly head against San Antonio and a little bit against Houston last Sunday. Is that going to be there in the postseason? And to your point, that's why rest is really important going into the first round, because we saw what happened when Steph got a week off. It was because of injury, but he bounces back and he drops 37, has a 50-burger, goes for 37 again. If he can do that in a postseason series, well then, yeah, you absolutely have action. But you got to make sure that he is at as close to 100% as possible. So I don't think the play-in is a death knell necessarily, but to me, if you believe that this Warriors team can go deep in the playoffs, it does start with securing the 6th seed, and that essentially means you got to beat the Clippers tomorrow.
Good luck.
Yeah, I
You
know.
can do it. They can do it. It's one and get in.
Well, they haven't this season. They're 0-3.
Exactly. And I want to say the Clippers, as good as the Warriors have been over the last month and a half, the Clippers are even better. And so it was Jimmy Butler that ignited the Warriors. It's the return of Kawhi Leonard that has just absolutely sent that Los Angeles Clipper team right to the very top in just about every statistical category, offensively and defensively. He's two-way Kawhi again. This isn't Kawhi of Toronto, whom, by the way, beat the Warriors in the NBA Finals. This is Kawhi going back to San Antonio.
Wow, whoa. Let's pump the brakes here a little bit. Kawhi is, I don't think, as dominant as he was in San Antonio.
He's pretty darn good right now.
And I would argue the best basketball he's played was when he was in Toronto. But you're right. He has been awesome. You know, if you're thinking about players that you don't want to see in a postseason series, Steph Curry is obviously at the top of a lot of people's lists. But Kawhi Leonard kind of gets lost a little bit. And the biggest question for LA has always been, can Kawhi be healthy come postseason time? What he's done over March and April is essentially averaged 25 points. And the most important category to me, Dan, has been minutes played. He's played like 35 minutes a game, shooting over 50% from the floor, over 40% from three-point range, and doing what he does at the line, while also being a pretty dominant defensive player. So that absolutely is a group that I don't know if it's that I think the Warriors should win the game tomorrow or sort of have to, but it's gonna tell us, I think, how far the Warriors can go, because that really is the elimination game without the costs of elimination. And I think the Warriors want to win that game. They're going to go all out to win that game. You're going to see the minutes reflected from their big three. And you got to try and beat a team that, by the way, hasn't had this version of Kawhi when you've struggled against them. Because Zubats has been a monster. Harden's had his big... Norman Powell has been sensational for them.
Keep going.
Well, that's about as far as I got.
No, you're leaving somebody out.
Who am I leaving? What, Chris Dunn?
Ben Simmons.
Oh, my God.
He's actually not bad for them. He's actually giving them decent defensive minutes.
I thought you were going to say Bogey. They're the Los Angeles Clippers are the team of 2018. They're the 2018 All-Stars. And they got action.
You know what's going to happen with Kawhi Leonard from this point going forward? What? He's going to take every season, he's not going to play until March. Like, this is, he started load management, and now he's stumbled onto something where he didn't play this entire season basically until mid-March. That's what he's going to do for the rest of his tenure in L.A.
Yeah.
Why not? He's been good.
He's also looking a little slim.
Yeah.
Like a lot of players when they get older, they kind of put on some weight, look a little pudgy. Like, Kawhi's gotten slim jimmed.
They're going to be tough out. But you're right. Listen, you can't find like some circuitous route to the NBA Finals and somehow not play OKC and try and miss the LA Clippers. At some point, you're going to have to beat who's in front of you.
Yeah, like not everyone in the West can get knocked off.
So it's going to be I think the Warriors have a hell of a shot at winning this game, but this is, again, I have no other way to describe it other than it's fun as return once again to basketball around here this time of the year.
Yeah, and also, I stand corrected. It was Mike Dunleavy Jr. that told Steve Kerr, who relayed last night, essentially, they got 3 games to get into the postseason. You can win tomorrow and secure the 6th seed, or you can win the 7-8, which is probably going to be on Tuesday. And if you lose that, I think it would be a Thursday or Friday.
You don't want to get into the 9-10 winner.
No. Well, and who knows? It could be Anthony Davis and Klay Thompson. And that's not a duo I would necessarily want to see in an elimination game anyways.
There's 2 teams right now you don't want to face. 2.
In the West?
In the West. Well, 3, throw in OKC. But
I mean, none of these teams are easy, by the way.
Well, as of right now, in the here and now, first of all, Memphis, you want to play. Memphis is not very good right now.
Which, if they lose on Sunday, so this is all under the assumption Minnesota plays Utah tomorrow. That's the team they play.
Without Ant-Man.
Without Ant-Man, yeah, because he got suspended. Yeah. And I think it's his 18th technical or something, so he's missing that game. But they should take care of business against the Jazz. And then assuming that the Warriors win, they would keep the 6. If they lose, they play Memphis in the 7-8. That's essentially what it comes down to.
Yeah, so they should take care of the Jazz, but so these teams that have been tanking, that haven't been very good, it's one of the reasons why the San Antonio game was dangerous, is because their fate had already been sealed as far as there's a site that I advise everybody to check out. It's called tankathon.com. And so San Antonio's, their positioning for the lottery had already been, their fate had been determined. They couldn't improve. So essentially, when you're playing a team like that of the Spurs, they're not tanking any longer. Their coaches are coaching and their players are playing again, right? And they have some good young talent. Now, the dangers with Utah is that I believe they're still nip and tuck with Washington.
They are tied 17-64 with the Washington Wizards.
So they are going to lose tomorrow.
But
so don't look for any help from the Jazz.
Well, to be fair, though, if you're a bottom 3 seed, which they will be, your odds of the number 1 pick is still the same. The bottom 3 seeds have a 14% chance to get the 1. So, I mean, they have nothing to play for, essentially.
Yeah.
But the San Antonio Spurs, like if you had paid attention to what they'd done the prior week, they played the Clippers the night before down to the wire. They had a close loss to the Cavaliers at home, I think by just a point. They'd beaten the Nuggets during the middle of the Mike Malone and Calvin Booth exorcism. And they had also played the Orlando Magic close after they got blasted by the Warriors. So the Spurs were a team that, yes, they hadn't won a lot of games, but they had been basically jockeying with teams prior to coming in, and the Warriors had an off night. Which, oh, by the way, now looking at it...
What do you mean had an off night? They just weren't very good, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, no, the Warriors didn't play well at all.
Yeah.
I thought they ran out of gas. But if they had won that game, if they had found a way to
that's
scrape
the
that
whole
one
season.
out,
That is everything.
They are right now sitting with a week off.
Well, yeah, that's why if they lose to the Clippers, you don't point at that Clippers game as the reasons why they went to the play-in tournament. You
Agreed.
point at San Antonio. But here's the difference why I think part of the reason why maybe it gets back to your word of the day, attrition, as it relates to the Golden State Warriors, is that, yeah, you talked about San Antonio had the back-to-back, right? So there was no advantage there. And I would say that they had to travel. The Warriors had to travel as well. They went back home. San Antonio takes the trip to San Francisco. But this is what happens when you're a younger basketball team, because Stephon Castle and Vassell and those boys still had their legs. They still could put it into another gear in the fourth quarter. Now, they're clearly an inferior team in terms of talent if you're to match them up player for player and roster for roster with the Golden State Warriors, but the Warriors looked fatigued. The Warriors looked much more energized despite having the entire fourth quarter off against Phoenix in that laugher. But this is what we're talking about in that battle of attrition, and the reason why that team, more than anybody else, and I'm talking about the Warriors, needs the rest is because you could clearly see that an old basketball team, it doesn't matter how good they were the night before, just simply does not have the energy playing the following night against a young team like that of the San Antonio Spurs, who also played, as you mentioned, going right down to the nub against the Clippers, but certainly had their legs when they needed it.
Yeah, they were also playing risk-free basketball. Like they also, I thought Chris Paul was pretty good in that game. And I'm sure he wanted to stick it to his old team. He always wants to stick it to the Warriors. But they had fresh legs. They had young legs or younger legs. And I think also the kind of team that they are is the kind of team that the Warriors have struggled with at times this season, even with Jimmy Butler. Teams that are playing 5-out basketball, that can run, that are athletic, and maybe most importantly, that can penetrate. Like the Warriors, to me, the biggest flaw with their team right now is they seem to struggle with quality penetrating guards, and they don't really have a guy outside of Steph that can penetrate in the half court themselves. And the Spurs basically, like a lot of teams did, have done, and will do, just double Steph out near midcourt, force the ball out of his hands, and force someone else to make a shot. And in the playoffs, it's going to come down to, can Jimmy Butler go playoff Jimmy? It's also going to come down to, can Podziemski and Moody hit shots? A lot of their younger players. And we're going to discuss where all these guys fit, how Jonathan Kuminga fits, because there was some comments earlier this week by Steve Kerr that maybe seemed like his role come postseason time is not going to be as large. But overall, how are fans feeling headed into the final game, game 82 of the regular season at Chase Center tomorrow, 12:30 against the Los Angeles Clippers? Win and in, lose and play in. That's how things are shaking out right now. 888-957-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings, Dan Devone on Warriors this week. Steven Risotto's in the house as well. You know, I think, Dan, I'm not necessarily... my glass is not half full or half empty with the Warriors, but it's kind of where it's been since they've gotten Jimmy. Like, I still want to see how this is going to work because they have played awesome basketball, but at times they still kind of look a little bit like the team they were before they got Butler. And that's, to me, what scared me in the San Antonio game, that even with Jimmy, they can still revert back to some of their old ways.
Well, Jimmy Butler is going to have to be this playoff Jimmy that we keep hearing about, because Butler's got to score the basketball. And I know he has a little bit of late, but he has got to be a big scorer. That's what he did. When we talk about playoff Jimmy, when Jimmy Butler took that team, and I'm talking Miami the first time, to the NBA Finals, and they had no business being there. It's the game that nobody watched because it was pandemic. Everybody was in that silly bubble. They lost to Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and the Los Angeles Lakers. You know how many points he averaged in that NBA Finals? It was 28. He was like 28, 9, and 5. And then a couple of years later, just 2 years ago when he lost to Denver in the Finals, Jimmy Butler averaged like 26. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jimmy Butler scores the basketball. This version of Jimmy, while he's been very good and he's defined roles and he's given this team an identity that starts with defense, he has got to score the basketball because they still have not clearly defined that number two. And the Steph minutes, or the non-Steph minutes, are still a thing. And Jimmy Butler is so deferential. I cannot see him again get to the rim, and he did this last night.
Oh, yeah,
where he's kicking out to Draymond Green for a three. Just stop that. Get to the rim. And I think it's contagious with the rest of the team. Suddenly you're seeing Moody and all these other guys looking to hand off when they get in deep. Nothing perturbs me more. And there are a few things in the NBA these days, but it's trending, and it has been for a while. When I see a guy, it could be a guard, it could be a big. I saw Joel Embiid do this, and this is now 3 years ago, and I was screaming at the tube. Joel Embiid had a step on a guy, and he's going to the rim, and I'm like, ooh, let me see what kind of dunk are we going to get here? How's he going to throw it down? And he kicked out to Tobias Harris in the corner for a three. Now here, you know how all things with me get back to announcers. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it might have been BA or somebody who was calling the game with Reggie Miller, and they just said, oh, and Tobias is offline as we go the other way. There was no what are you doing? What are you doing, Joel Embiid? Joel, how is that? And I point out the announcers and just the way we play, because it's sort of this accepted norm. Well, that's just the way we do things. We puncture and then we kick out. You get a step into the lane, guys converge on you, you kick out. If you're above 6'9" and 6'10", you sure as hell should be dunking that basketball, getting fouled, or getting to the free throw line. Do not ever kick to the corner, and I don't care who's out there. It could be Ray Allen shooting a three. That is not a higher percentage shot. And for whatever reason, coaches, announcers, all of us accept this as the way the game's being played in 2025. Are you paying attention, Pasta?
No, he's back there getting calls, and we got people chiming in at 888-957-9570. That last night, what Jimmy Butler did was so egregious.
But that's not the first time you've seen it.
No, but that one was the worst.
I don't know.
He had a straight line drive and passed it backwards. Like he turned 270 in the air.
I said this exact same thing a week ago.
I wasn't here.
Not only does he kick out, but I said what it is that you just described. I'm like, He does a 180 turn midair, squares his shoulders in the other direction, and passes out. That's exactly what I was talking about a week ago. I was like, that has to stop. And apparently he's not listening.
No, apparently not. We'll see if it changes in the playoffs. You know what that reminds me of? And it's only because you brought his name up earlier and he's playing for the Clippers tomorrow. You remember in Game 7 of the 2021 Eastern Conference semifinals when Ben Simmons had an uncontested layup when he was with the Sixers. And Trae Young was right there alongside him. And he goes under the basket, and he's wide open. And he throws it out to Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah.
Like, that's Ben Simmons. And that was the end of what we know to be...
He didn't want to shoot free throws.
Yes, he was afraid of the free throw. Jimmy shoots 85% at the free throw line. That's what makes no sense to me. I get it. If you're a player that doesn't know whether you shoot right-handed or left-handed and doesn't know whether you can make a free throw or not, I understand why you might not want to go to the line. But Jimmy Butler is a knocked... He shot 17 free throws against the Spurs. His playoff career high, I believe, is 28. He can get to the line and knock them down with confidence. So the fact that he's willing to go mid-flight, like the amount of times that... And it's more from the baseline. Like against the Spurs, he had, I want to say it was like 3 possessions in a row. He drives baseline from the corner after he pump fakes his man in the air. And he has no intention of shooting that ball. And like everyone knows it. And he'll swing it to someone else in the corner. And it's always someone like, he hasn't been active, but it's always someone like Gary Payton II or someone like Brandon Pajemski, who are not bad three-point shooters, but it's a coin flip depending on how the game's going. And it's like, dude, I need you at the stripe.
Well, GP2's terrible.
GP2 is actually the best uncontested three-point shooter the Warriors have had since Jimmy Butler's gotten here. Yeah, strange enough. No, but overall, you're right. Like, he's not a knock. You wouldn't think about him as a knockdown three-point shooter. He's not throwing it to Quentin Post. You know what I mean?
But Butler can score is the thing. Butler has a history of scoring.
But he won't shoot. Jimmy can't shoot. Jimmy won't shoot. Jimmy don't shoot. Jimmy shoots free throws.
Is that a Seinfeld reference?
No. There's a scene in Dreamgirls. And Eddie Murphy plays Jimmy. I forget his last name. But he's got this song where he's singing Jimmy Got Soul. And Jimmy Butler does have soul. But Jimmy won't shoot. It's kind of like Ricky won't run. Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, the Seinfeld episode where Jimmy, Elaine's date, refers to himself in the third person. Don't touch Jimmy. You want to take some of these calls?
Let's do it. 888-957-9570 is the number. Gloria's in San Francisco. Gloria, good morning. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you guys for taking my call.
Jimmy Early.
I feel optimistic about what the Warriors will put out there tomorrow. I do believe that the Clippers is one of their toughest matchups. But what concerns me the most out of everything is the role players, particularly Moses Moody and Pajemski. When they get the ball swinging around and it comes to them, they have to knock down those wide open shots. The last few games, they haven't been knocking them down. Now, last week they played really good, and that's what they need. They need Jimmy to shoot when he gets the ball. He needs to not kick it out as much when he's right up under the basket, shoot the ball. But it's the role players, because they're going to try to take Steph out. We know when Steph's not in the game, Jimmy is going to, the offense should run around him, and they should swing the ball, and those that do not have contested anyone on them, they should be the ones shooting, but they have to knock them down. The Warriors really missed Quentin Post when he got sick. Now he's back. I hope that brings a little more continuity. But I'm calling out Pajemski, Moses Moody, and Buddy Hield. These three have to be knocked down. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Gloria. Yeah, I think there's a lot of swing players on the Warriors, but I don't want people necessarily to fear, because I also think that applies to a lot of Western Conference teams, and we can maybe dig into more of that as we move on here on Warriors This Week. I'll tell you who some of those swing players are, because the Warriors are not alone in that regard. But you are right, Gloria, that Moody, Podziemski, and Buddy to some extent. I would throw a Post in there.
Well, I wouldn't consider Podziemski a role player any longer.
Well, I
think Moody needs to hit his shots. Podziemski is
non big three members, I think. I mean, look, they're both starters.
Are you? I think he's emerged, and I thought Kuminga was going to be this guy. I think he's emerged as a go-to guy. He's not a role. When I think of role players, I'm thinking of guys like that of Moody or GP2. He's an integral part of what they do, both offensively and defensively. And he's become an option. I don't know if he's the second or third option, but he's definitely an option on that team offensively now.
Well, before that game against San Antonio, he was their number 2 option for, I would say, a good 2 weeks. I mean, he has been one of the best knockdown three-point shooters, whether you like it or not, in the league. Yeah, he's getting to different spots, and he's looked like before that game he's been growing up, but he's got even more adulting to do.
Well, now you like him.
Who, Potts? Well, we went over this. I apologize to him. I have discussed my jealousy of Brandon Podziemski and the things that I wish that I could do just like him, the exuberance, the confidence, the irrational nature of Pods that I wish I could embody.
Well, it's that confidence is why I don't worry about him as much when we talk about younger players being on that stage in the postseason. I think he'll handle it fine.
Yeah, see, that's kind of why I do worry about him. 888-957-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings, Dan Devone, back after this, 95.7 The Game.
Sometimes our wonderful life in the Bay.
All right, Evan Giddings, Dan Devone, Warriors this week. Steve Risotto in the house as well. And, I know we're going to have postseason basketball because I consider the play-in after the regular season. Well, you're the one wearing a sweatshirt. You're the one who jumped in the ocean today. What are you cold for?
That's it. God, it just hit me. So I went swimming, and usually
shock?
What I want to do afterwards is you got to take the sauna and the warm shower to get your body, your core temperature back.
So
but if you skimp on that even by a couple of minutes, you can spend the entire day just in this state of shivering and being cold.
Well, it's windy out here. I don't know if you noticed. It's been a little more chilly.
I got a funny story about hypothermia if we have 10 seconds.
We got 2.5 hours.
So there's this buddy of mine. He's hardcore. So during the coldest months of the year, right, during the polar bear, is when he really goes after it. And usually when the temperature's below 50 degrees.
Is that a race?
Around 50. No, it's just like you want to accrue 50 or more miles during the winter solstice, right? So from late December to late March. And usually if you're in the water for more than 20 minutes that time of the year, you're freezing. He goes for about an hour. And he was telling me that he's one of those guys that listens to podcasts as he swims, and he listens to, he'll listen to his favorite podcast as he's swimming. Okay. And so he went one day, was pushing, he was like over an hour. And he's like, I knew it was time to come in because all of a sudden my podcast was in a different language. It was the early signs of hypothermia, which messes with your head. And so he's just listening to his podcast, and suddenly it was in Swahili. He's like, okay, wait, this isn't right. So he came back. Yeah, obviously, he could not understand what was being said to him. And that's when you get out of the water.
Does he know Swahili?
No. It's just like that's his brain could not interpret this podcast any longer. So he thought he was hearing it in a different language.
Did you just guess the language that it might have sounded like?
No. Oh, my God. You guys are missing all of this. No, the podcast that he was listening to, because he was having this brain dysfunction and hypothermia was setting in, he suddenly could not understand the podcast and thought it was being spoken in a different language.
Yeah, that's not the typical hallucinations that I prefer. But, some people just get it from hypothermia. Apparently, Dan Devone is cold today because he's still in Arctic shock from his...
Oh, I'm kind of a wimp.
Swim to Alcatraz today.
No, I'm wimpy. Who's on the line? I'm curious to get to them callers.
Yeah, get us back on track. Austin's in San Jose. Wants to talk to Dan. What's up, eh?
What's up, fellas? Happy Saturday. Great show. You guys are kicking it off as usual. Listen, a couple things. Last night, that was a practice game, man. I honestly hate those games where, you got guys sitting out, and it's not really a good advice. I mean, Jimmy Butler's stats were good. I'll give him credit, but he was playing against a G League team. And the one thing I've noticed, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, and I'm not trying to be critical of the great Jimmy Butler, but it seems like his lift, he doesn't seem like he has the lift that he had before. I noticed a couple times last night, he went to the rim and he didn't really get up. He just sort of threw it up there and got fouled. Okay. He didn't finish any N1s last night. So that may be a small thing now, but in the playoffs, getting that extra point could be significant, right? Because he's just throwing the ball up there right now. I don't know what to make of it, but Jimmy doesn't look like the Jimmy of 2 years ago to me. That's all I would say. The other thing is Buddy Hield. Have you guys noticed that Buddy Hield, he shoots great threes when he's on, but if he goes inside the lane and tries to shoot a two, he can't make a two. I mean, you tell me when you see Buddy Hield make a mid-range. It's just one of those things you notice that I don't know why, but it's very interesting. A dude can't make a two. I mean, the other thing I would say, guys, is the playoff, being a Warrior fan, to be an objective, though, I would say it's probably 50-50 that the Warriors can make a run past the first round. And the reason is because if we look at it, Steph Curry, number one, needs to be on a heater, okay, for the Warriors to advance. I would say that Steph can probably be on a heater maybe 1, 2 out of 3. So who's going to be that for that third game, fourth game, who's going to be able to cover that difference? Because Steph's not going to be able to score 35 every game. I don't believe that. So can Podziemski, Moody, the combination of those guys, Buddy, can they make up the difference? And maybe Jim. I don't know. I think we got to find out. I'm not sure. I'm not saying they can't, but I'm saying I got concerns. I say 50-50, guys. Tell me if you agree that they can make a run. Last thing, Jonathan Kuminga, guys. You know how I feel about the controversial Jonathan Kuminga. I think that the Coach Kerr's made a statement. I think fans need to digest it. I think the chances of Jonathan Kuminga coming back to the Warriors next year in this system are probably probably next to none. I would like to see the kid move on from a standpoint of what I feel about him as a ball player. I think he should have the opportunity to go somewhere else and play, because the Warrior fans have judged this guy based on Kerr's system, and I don't think that's necessarily fair, guys. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thanks, Austin. A lot of good stuff as usual.
Strong call.
A lot of compelling
ding,
questions.
Ding, 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 ding. Every one of them he just knocked out of the park.
Which one do you want to start with? I mean, all of them are worth.
I could not agree with him more about the Jimmy Butler analysis. Like Jimmy Butler's lift and his legs, which they often say is the first thing to go. I noticed that earlier this year with Miami. And there was a play, there's a lot of plays, but there was one, I want to say earlier this week, where he came flying down the middle of the paint and had a dunk. And it was such a soft dunk. It was such a soft put down. Jimmy back in the day tomahawks that thing. Jimmy Butler had a running start, straight up the gut, coming down the lane. That's his world. Jimmy Butler, people forget, it's not about just getting to the rim and having lift and dunking on people, but he had that lift and that advantage and that little turnaround. That's what he owned people with. From about 16 to 18 feet, he'd isolate you, and then he'd back you down, and then he'd spin, and then he would just jump over you, have that pretty release. He can still do that from time to time, but that is spot on in terms of the analysis. But my man Austin, his legs are not the same. That's not an indictment on Jimmy Butler is not going to be good, or Jimmy Butler is, suddenly a fraud. No, what he's done has been real. But we do have to recognize that, like all of these players, they are not what they once were. Steph certainly resembles himself, but he can't sustain it as long as he did a couple of years back. I mean, he can be good, but it's in stretches now. But Jimmy Butler and his legs, that is real. I have seen that with my own eyes, where he just does not look like the same guy around the rim. But that's just life. It doesn't. And oftentimes what happens, I'll put this in a baseball analogy, because you'll appreciate this, is that you'll lose a couple of miles maybe off your fastball, but what do? Is that you work on your off speed. Like that's what happened to Bartolo Colon. Used to be gas. I always tell you this, when he came out and won a Cy Young with the Angels. And then he learned to off-speed everything. And same thing with Jamie Moyer, all of those guys. And so Jimmy Butler may not have the lift. That's not an indictment. He's no longer a good player, so he makes up for it in other ways. But that is an astute analysis on the part of our man Austin.
I agree to an extent. The thing is, if you look at some of his numbers from just games in April, like he's actually been one of the most efficient offensive players in basketball. His scoring has actually gone up from the time that he's gone here.
Okay, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's exactly what I'm saying. It's not an indictment on his game, and it's not something that you can see in terms of his numbers. Still a good basketball player, but what he's saying in terms of the eyeball test, those legs are not what they once were. It's not a reflection of the numbers.
No, 100%. I also don't think that Steph is the same player he was 5-10 years ago. I don't think that Draymond
I don't
is the
think
player.
Austin was saying anything more than that. I don't think he was saying that, he's not a good basketball player or his numbers have declined.
No, but what would concern me is if Butler can't be that guy when they need him to be. Like, I think the age to me impacts the entire game, like the full 48. But to me, where Jimmy is going to be the most important, maybe even part of this team more so than Steph, is going to be with 2 minutes left. It's going to be in a 2-minute game, in a clutch game that will decide perhaps the Warriors' season or swing a series. Because there's not really a guy that you can just give the ball to and get a good offensive possession out of, because I'm assuming that they're going to try and take the ball out of Steph's hands. Obviously, Steph is the best player on the team, but because he's smaller, you can trap him. Because he's going to have to give it up and he's going to extend the defense. He's not going to have the ball in his hands. It's going to be Jimmy Butler has to have the ball in his hands and initiating everything under 2 minutes in a postseason contest. That's just how it has to be. You saw against the Spurs when 3-point shots weren't falling, which is eventually going to happen, that you have to find some way to score or to get an open two or a layup. And how did they score down the stretch against the Spurs? I'm not saying that San Antonio is a team that's going to kill them or you should write them off because they lost that game, but It was a backdoor cut from Steph in which Jimmy dumps it off to him. It was Jimmy getting to the free throw line 6 times in that quarter. That's how they're going to generate offense, I think. And down the stretch of basketball games, the question is going to be, can you get enough stops? And to me, can you generate enough offense? And that is where Jimmy Butler's role has to be. So, yes, he's not the same guy. He's 36 years old. He doesn't have as much lift. But that doesn't, to me, apply as much in the final minutes where you need him. There's a reason why the Warriors are 9-2 in clutch games since he's gotten here. And it's because he generally makes the right play. And that's where his value is to me now, even though, yes, he's an older version of himself.
And this is where I think Jonathan Kuminga comes into play, or should come into play, or the fact that he hasn't come into play gets back to another point of that of Austin's. I couldn't agree with you more. That when it comes to the playoffs, we all know this, it becomes more of a half-court game. Things slow down. Every possession becomes that much more amplified. There's not as much transitional basketball, which means there's not as much chaos, which means you're in more of a set, and you need somebody who can go ISO. Jimmy Butler can do that. The other guy that should be, especially if you're going to take Steph Curry out of the picture, that should be able to get his own. Jimmy Butler's one. The other should be Jonathan Kuminga, and that continues to be a huge question going into the most important part of the season.
It should be. But why hasn't it been? Why hasn't it been? Like,
it's $1 million question at this juncture.
Well, I think the answer is simple. I think it's Jimmy Butler. Like, Jimmy Butler is playing the position that Kuminga previously held before the deadline. It just is.
I think good players always find a way to share the ball and recognize one another.
Yeah, but Kuminga's not at that point yet in his career.
But Jimmy Butler is. I think if Jonathan Kuminga was, it's all Jonathan Kuminga. It's all him. If he could get to the rim and do what it is that we're expecting, he would have plenty of opportunity. Jimmy Butler would make sure that he would get an opportunity. The idea that Styles, especially when it comes to good veteran players, I remember this goes back to, remember when Kevin Durant joined the team? What was one of the first things we used to hear about? There are just not enough balls. I remember the guy who was supposed to get squeezed out was Klay Thompson. How's Klay Thompson going to get his shots when Kevin Durant's here? It's bad enough that Steph is putting up as many shots as he is. Now you got good players always know how to play with one another. This is about Jonathan Kuminga. Nothing to do with Jimmy Butler, I don't think.
Oh, I think it has everything to do with him. And it's not the way that he plays, and it's not that he's not trying to integrate him. It's that right now the way the Warriors' offense is run, Jimmy Butler does all the things that they need better than Kuminga does. He's more efficient getting to the free throw line and making his free throws. He's a better passer. Sometimes he's a better help defender. He's not a better on-ball defender, but he's a better help defender. Kuminga doesn't have a consistent three-point shot, so there's less spacing. It doesn't mean that Kuminga can't be a great player and can't help. Like, against the Lakers, he was awesome. But I think what we're seeing is that, all right, the time where you need offense is when Steph's off the floor, right? But if those two guys can't coexist, then which one are you going to lean towards? Unfortunately, they haven't been able to figure out enough, at least for me, to see Steve Kerr trusting them in a playoff game. That time is up. And maybe it's tomorrow, but that's also a big game. I think what Steve Kerr has done, and I know Steven's looking for the sound to sort of set up this entire conversation here, but to me, what Steve Kerr is doing is he is basically letting everyone know before it happens that Jonathan Kuminga's role is not going to be a massive one come playoff time. And it's not because he can't be a great player in the future. It's because they haven't figured out how to pair him with Butler in the short amount of time that they've had since Kuminga's come back from injury. They haven't been able to figure that out.
So you're assuming that Jonathan Kuminga would be a much better player and a big scorer if Jimmy Butler wasn't on this team. And I'm saying
Kuminga would be better. There's no doubt about that, but the Warriors would not be better.
I think that Jonathan Kuminga continues to struggle with Jonathan Kuminga, and it has nothing to do with Jimmy Butler. Jonathan Kuminga has I've seen it. I've seen he has ample opportunity to get to the rim and be like that at Jimmy Butler, but it's in his head. He's still hesitant. We talked about being too deferential early on in the show. He's not comfortable right now with his role. And that's on him. Jimmy Butler's just being Jimmy Butler. If he wanted to put pressure on the rim, if he wanted to be the sort of player we've seen him provide flashes of, especially when he went down with that injury, if at that time he was so comfortable in letting the game come to him, if he could be that guy, there is room for him on this team to be a prolific scorer and to be effective. And I don't think Jimmy Butler influences that one way or the other.
Oh, and the 510 is agreeing with you. Kuminga is way more passive in the lane now that he was before Jimmy got here.
You took away my messages, so I can't see the people that agree with me.
I'll bring it up during the break.
You did that on purpose.
I forgot about that. Yeah, people agreeing with you. I can't let you feel too good. But first, stay back in a couple weeks, Dan. I got to get my bearings. All right. Before I deliver, God, just a nail to the coffin in this argument. Let's go to Scott in Berkeley. Wants to talk about Jimmy Butler. Scotty, what's up?
How you doing?
Oh, fantastic, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. You know, when in the earlier conversation about Butler going to the hoop and giving the ball up, a lot of this to me has been his way of load management, because he's basically the post player. So going inside, he's going to have to take the beating, and theoretically, which is I think led him toward moving the ball out. Now, as you hit the playoffs or the play-in, I think who he becomes, to use an old name out of the past, is Adrian Dantley.
Wow. When you say out of the past, we're going back to Notre Dame.
That guy was a 30-point scorer, Scotty.
No. Well, what I'm talking about is how he got his 30.
Oh.
Because if you looked at an Adrian Dantley scoring line, it usually was 10 field goals and 10 free throws. What he was doing was effectively just getting the front line in foul trouble. Now, that was kind of what Jimmy did. That was what Jimmy did really in the bubble in 2020. And you have to remember, Miami was playing with 3 missing starters in that final, so he was basically the only guy they had. And then in 23, that was just Jokic. So there wasn't a lot they were going to be able to do. But again, Jimmy has to be able to get 27 or 28, and there's got to be 9 field goals and 9 free throws. If you want to do it in multiples of threes, everything his field goals have to equal his free throws. And I think that works, because again, if you were to, the way they played the Lakers in the last match that they had, they ran the Lakers off the floor. And they had the front line messed up. Again, if it were a case where they draw Memphis, Jaren Jackson Jr., who is supposedly a defensive candidate for DPOY, has gotten into foul trouble the whole year. So what you need is what you would need in either case is Butler just decimating a front line.
Yeah. I mean, it's what you would need. Also, if they could play Jaren Jackson Jr. in the Grizzlies, that'd be
they're so bad defensively. They suck defensively.
Now, why is that?
Oh, jeez. Well, first of all, I don't work in Memphis. I'm just telling you what it is that I see. They've I don't know.
No, it's because your guy, not my guy.
Who?
Edie.
Gets back to say
Big Maple. Can't stay on the floor. That guy stinks. I'm sorry. By the way, you can have him, and I will take. I'm going to steal this, but it's a great nickname. Kling Kong in Portland. Yeah, give me Donovan Clingan. You can have Edie. Give me the Hurley boys. I want all the Huskies.
So I'll get a question for you.
What?
So Clingan, of course, coming off that championship with the Connecticut Huskies.
2 back-to-back.
All right. So he's a rookie. And I saw those 2 rookies played against, 2 big white dudes played against each other last night. Would you rather have, Clingan, I think, went in the lottery, number 7 overall.
Yeah.
Would you rather have him, now be objective here, or would you rather have Quentin Post? Straight up. Watching those 2 play last night.
No, I'm more focused on the objectivity, because I just told you I really like Clingan.
Yeah.
I would rather have Kuminga.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well,
but Quentin Post
on this Warriors team, I actually think Post fits better because they don't have any 3-point shooting or really consistent 3-point shooting besides Steph.
But it's narrow, I guess is my point.
Yeah, no, he's a hit. Like, that's a hit in draft for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's only one other rookie in the league, Jamison Battle. He's a bench guy for Toronto. But he's the only other rookie, I think, that is shooting above 40% from three-point range, not named Quentin Post. Now, Post has been awesome. And, yeah, I think, 510's chiming in. People on the YouTube chat as well. People would rather have Post. I totally get that for this Warriors team. But if you're asking me who the player I'd rather have, give me the rim runner. Give me the rim protector.
He didn't look very good last night. And I was watching Quentin Post. Those two matching up with one another. And I'm like, yeah, Quentin Post can shoot this thing. And you want to know why Memphis is just bad altogether? It's because
Big Maple,
their leader, Ja Morant,
G.I. Ja.
You cannot have that guy as your leader on a basketball team because you will follow him. He is clearly your best player, but he does not have the maturity to lead a team anywhere right now. And his new grenade thing.
You don't like it?
This is why I don't like it. And then we'll move on. This is why I don't like it. It's because to do something like that where he throws his words into the crowd first and then he covers his ears, that's so choreographed. So he must have worked on it, right? Like he got in front of a mirror or he workshopped in front of teammates. And so it's like it's something he thought about and worked at after he made a shot, after he makes a three. How about this for a team that's so bad defensively and you're the leader? How about working on your defense? How about working about turning your ass and getting back defensively and picking up a man as opposed to this elaborate new celebration after hitting threes and covering your ears? Like, how about playing a little defense? Because that's where you guys suck instead of throwing a grenade.
The thing that's the most frustrating about Ja Morant or Ja Wick or G.I. Ja, whatever you want to call him, is that you can see he's so good.
Oh, he's amazing.
He's incredible. But all the extracurricular stuff, it's like, dude, when you were coming out of college, people thought you could be Derrick Rose. You know, a guy who could be a potential MVP candidate or face of the league.
First embraced him as the face of the league in those first 2 years.
Oh, he knocked out the Warriors in 21 in that play-in.
The NBA, the league, everybody, it was his world. And then he went,
Yeah, him and Pops. All right, 888-957-9570 is the number. I see your calls, but we got to hit a break here in just about a minute, so I want to make sure I give everyone their full run. I see you, Vince, Mitch, Tim. I want to get to all your calls. Yeah, we can get into Kuminga. We can get into Jimmy Butler. To me, the relationship between the two is a little interesting, and the way that Steve Kerr views it is the reason why I just don't know if we're going to see a whole lot of him come postseason time. And to me, the way that I view it is Steve Kerr's telling us that come playoff time, don't expect Kuminga to have...
You can't go very far without Jonathan Kuminga.
Don't expect his role to grow.
Yeah, that's scary.
It doesn't mean he's going to be phased out completely. He can. I think in some matchups, he can absolutely help this team, but the time to figure it out is up. And they're going to live and die with their best three players. And to Austin's point, that's why I think their chances to make a run are 50-50. I think that's a good way to put it. You know, how are you feeling about the Warriors' chance to go deep in the postseason when they are largely reliant on a 37-year-old, a 36-year-old, and a 35-year-old?
Now that he mentions it, I'm trying to think of the last time I saw Chavano hit a mid-range. Now, he's pretty good when he gets...
I got something for you on Chavano.
When he gets to the rim, he's pretty good. He's not
it's
bad.
Been 2 weeks without me, and I got a sticker for my guy.
All right.
Because you people, I mean...
I'm trying to think, have you ever seen him hit a mid-range?
No. But what I have seen him hit, he's so strange. Like, he'll hit these like running left-handed floaters off the window, which are far more difficult than a free throw line pull-up. But for some reason, he's got more touch with his offhand than he does his shooting hand from inside the three-point line. Was
that your big insight?
No. I got something more for you.
Right.
Because all you people... I
was going to say, you had to come stronger than that.
No, I'm going to come down Steve Kerr's road. He's been pissing me off when it comes to Buddy Hield. Do not take his kindness for weakness.
Oh, he's the nicest guy in the world, man.
Yeah. And if I was him, I'd be pissed the way people have been treating me the last week. All right?
Oh, is this when he got his lung?
I'll tell you why on the other side.
All right.
When we come back after this on Warriors This Week.
The game.
All right, Evan Giddings, Dan Devone, 1 hour in, 2 to go here on Warriors this week. Glad to be back in the saddle with my guys.
Yay!
Bone, Pasta.
Can you hold my tea bag?
You cannot ask another man
There was no sort of
to hold your tea bag.
Weird inferences there. I literally have a tea bag in my hand, and I didn't bring the proper apparatus to put it in.
You mean the cup that you're supposed to drink it out of?
You leave your tea bag in the cup the whole time?
Yeah.
No, man. You're supposed to take it out at some point.
Well, it's been like 5 minutes. You just got tea during the break.
I know. Well, it's time for it to come out. Pasta, can you come in here?
Steve, can you please help our guy? There's so many things that...
By the way, we've had green tea all this time, and I just literally got turned on to it less than 2 minutes ago.
I know. We got vanilla chai. We got Earl Grey.
The hell with all that. Green tea. Go look it up. It's one of the healthiest things you can do.
No, I agree with that. My dad drinks it a lot. I think he gets it
I was
imported.
joking, brother. He actually came in. Here, I was just going to have you hold this during the entire segment. I'm joking here, but thank you, Gary. Yeah, that'd be great.
By the
Pasta,
way,
you're the best, man. Pasta, ladies and gentlemen. That was an absolute juke. He literally came in with his hands open like, okay, sir.
Diva Dan Devone. Got to get Pasta to come in to hold his tea bags.
I'll tell you, once I was so hungover. This is back in the day when I was going hard like you.
Wow, dude.
Hey, not last night.
At Caesar's Palace, and I was in a private pool, and I was just like, I was out the whole day. I just was completely just hungover, just sat there, baked in the sun. But we had access to this private pool at Caesar's Palace. Next thing I knew, these women that are dressed up and they're as the cocktail waitresses.
Women of the night, yes.
No. The cocktail waitresses, I felt something really cold on my nose, and she was feeding me cold grapes. Like, was one of the perks of being... I could barely see, and I'm like, what's this? What's this? And she was, like, feeding me these cold... I'm like, oh, man.
Your nights out and my nights out are very different.
No, this is the day after. That wasn't the night of.
Still, your days after are very different than my days
grapes
after.
or red grapes?
They were green.
Cold grapes is what they were.
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
All right, someone save us. Let's go out to, my favorite state. Let's go out to North Carolina and talk to Tim. Tim, before you rip me or Dan or anyone here, I just want to say I was in Raleigh this last weekend. I had a magnificent time. Your city is one of my favorites. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Bro, I was just about to say, man, I hope you had a safe trip, man. We bought my wife tickets for that. My wife and kids, my wife's birthday. She loves her some damn J. Cole. So, no, I hope you had a great time, brother. It was glad to hear that you were coming over this way. But no, man, Evan, I agree with you 100% on Kerr setting the stage for JK. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I'm happy that it's almost coming to an end, Evan, for the young man. I couldn't agree with Austin more. I am excited to see what his future is going to be at another location. You know, I think the young man's his talent matched with about 80 to 90% of how the league plays. And I think it's enough film on him already. And I think about this, guys. I think his agent, his representatives, there's no way in hell they would have left this up in the hands of Steve Kerr. I don't think it was about a max deal, quite honestly. I think this kid has just been playing to get to his freedom. I think this young man from Congo, he's already made $30 million. He's from nothing. He's from Congo. I think this young man, they knew, hey, just play this thing out. You know that these guys have these back channels behind the scenes, and there's people out there that are salivating to get their hands on this guy and what they can do with him. So I honestly think, Evan, the best thing for Jonathan Kuminga, it ain't a max. It's not $35 million. If we hit what they offered him, it was $30. I think this young man needs only a coach that wants him. I think he would be happy with $15 million with a coach that just wants him, because I don't think he's caught up in some of the ways our young American players have been raised to just go for all the money. I'm serious. That's just what I think. And I don't think he ever would have came into this season with all he has gone through with Kerr, putting his future in that man's hands, man. I think that's why you see him smiling on the bench. You don't see him pissed off. I think they already know what's out there for him. The back channels have already been done. And I think I think we got it wrong thinking that it's all about Max and him staying here. Unfortunately, you got a owner that feels a certain way. You got a GM that feels a certain way, which is we need this guy to be maximized for us to hit our ceiling. But he's up against a coach who doesn't feel that way. Guys, this is not the first time. We just saw what happened to Mike Malone. But between a GM and an owner, GM and a philosophy with a coach. And so I think the young man is going to get his shot. I'm excited to see him. I'll be able to be a fan of the Warriors, and I can be a fan of Kuminga by watching League Pass and get all of it. And he would no longer be the punching bag and the damn dartboard for everybody. I'm excited that it's slowly coming to an end, man. And Devon, I feel you. What you said about, it's scary that they're going to kind of minimize him, but this is just where we are, man. I mean, what we're going to see is he's going to be gone over the summer, and and then Jimmy is going to hit him for an extension next year, probably around this time, and they're going to kind of be up against it. But I think that's just where we are. They're going to go all in with Pods and Moody and Post. And, the kid just doesn't fit the system, and it's time to just let him go, man, and let him fly. So, but Evan, man, I'm glad you're over here, man. I was thinking about you when you said that. I never got a chance to talk to you before you're coming back over. But I'm glad you had a good time, man. And, I wanted to let you know, my wife is 50 years old. I remember y'all talking about the damn age of who can go to something like that. But my wife is 50. My kids, 26 and 28, but we came up in the 90s, man. We came up in the Tupac Biggie generation, so we're going to always still be down with that type of stuff, brother. So, all right, man, well, it's good to talk to you. It's good to talk to you, Devon, man. Y'all have a great one, fellas.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, appreciate the kind words. And I'm glad your wife and kids had a good time, too. Like, there's a lot of musical talent in North Carolina, man. And, I when I lived over there, opened my eyes to Little Brother. There's a group from out there. And Omen, Loot, both performed at Dreamville Fest. A lot of North Carolina talent, people under the Dreamville record label, which is based in Raleigh, and Earth Gang, Ari Lennox, Kaz, Boz. A lot of different talented artists that were out there that I got to see. In addition, of course, the big boys, obviously J. Cole and like Lil Wayne stuff.
You would move back to North Carolina?
Oh, in a heartbeat, dude. Wow. That place is heavenly. I love North Carolina.
I go to South Carolina. I go to Charleston. That's about it.
Yeah, see, that's where you and I are a little bit different. By the way, well, I don't know if we have listeners in South Carolina. You cross that border, it's a different place, man.
Really?
It's a different vibe. It is.
Well, I thought all
that's
Carolina
the real
was
Mason
like that.
Dixon. I'll put it that way.
You better be careful.
Yeah, I better be careful.
All right.
But no, North Carolina is beautiful. Oh, my uncle lives in Greensboro, so we also had a chance to go see him. It was an awesome trip. But yeah, I think Tim's points are all completely fair, and yeah, we'll talk about it obviously when we get to the postseason. Kuminga's future here or somewhere else, to me, it's really interesting because in one breath, I completely understand why people feel like he needs to be set free and allowed to do his own things. I also think that he could potentially get more money elsewhere because other teams could envision him fitting better in their systems. But when they got Jimmy Butler, I seriously think it changed everything for him. And to get back to my original point about why Kerr is preparing us for the postseason and Kuminga not to have a larger role in it, again, it doesn't mean he's going to be phased out, but the time to figure out how Kuminga and Butler can coexist on the court together, that's up. That time is up. And I think it's because they would rather have the ball, pardon me, in Butler's hands than Kuminga's hands. And Kuminga has not had enough time to figure out, and I don't know if he has the ability to play off the ball. He needs the ball in his hands. He's the one who has to initiate. And to be fair, before the deadline, he was doing a pretty good job of that. But Butler does that, and the team has won 23 of 30 games. That's what it comes down to.
You're not going very far in the playoffs. And before we start dancing on his grave that it's not going to work here, that might be true. He may not get that contract
I'm just saying for the rest of this season. Like I'm saying for the postseason.
I'm in the here and now. And in the postseason, what starts essentially this time next week, if he's not an integral part of the Golden State Warriors, you're not going anywhere. I'm sorry to bring the bad news to everybody. And I don't know how I get it. And Steve, I'm not pointing a finger at Kerr because he's right, but you better sure as hell figure it out between now and then. Because you cannot go into the postseason again, and this gets back to Austin. You cannot go into the postseason this reliant on Steph Curry. Somebody else has got to pressure the rim, and that somebody else is Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga is the only other athlete they have on that team that when you get into a half-court set, when things slow down in the postseason, as they have a tendency to do, that can get his own. You can clear a side, and he can go get you one. Or he can get fouled and get to the free throw line. He has to do that with consistency, and he has to score, and not just an isolated game where he goes for 25. He has to be around 16 to 18 to 20 points a night in the postseason to go along with everything that Steph is going to do and Jimmy Butler. If you really think that this Warrior team has an opportunity of getting back to the NBA Finals and making a serious run in a very competitive Western Conference. That's the bottom line for me. I don't know how you figure that crap out. I think the two can coexist. It's just a matter of Jonathan Kuminga getting it done. Has nothing to me, has nothing to do with Jimmy Butler, has nothing to do with X's and O's and Steve Kerr. He's got to play and he's got to score. We've seen it before, and that has to return if you want any chance of doing anything.
I think against some teams, that is the way you have to approach it. But in other matchups, it's not going to be the way that it goes
you could
down.
see the Lakers in round one.
And that's, for example, that's a team I think that Kuminga can play against. But against a team like the Nuggets, against a team like OKC, not everyone...
I would disagree with you there. I think OKC, the one thing, they've been epic defensively, right? I watched Luka the other night, and I've seen this from time to time. I think the one area they're susceptible is if you ISO. If you ISO somebody on, they're so good team defense. The way they rotate, they're so long, they're so disruptive in terms of passing, and everybody plays the same way, and they're a step ahead. And they have two-way players. They don't have to substitute offense for defense. They don't do that. But if you can ISO like Steph, or if you can ISO like that at Kuminga, you could have a chance against OKC. If you can beat their point of attack, if you can get past guys, they are vulnerable. Luka proved that to everybody the other night when they rolled OKC.
That was the game where Luka went for
45. No, that was against
I
Dallas.
think it was against Dallas.
He had the huge, so they had that baseball series. So they had 2 in OKC. He went for like 38. And then that's the game where they couldn't miss from 3. And then the following night, he was on another heater and he got tossed because the ref thought that he was chirping at him, but he was actually chirping at a fan directly behind the ref.
That one I actually heard is not exactly how it was reported. So
really?
so that fan is a season ticket holder for the Thunder, and he chirps. That's what he does. He tries to play the game within the game with opposing players, and Luka got caught up in it. But also, because this is a trick that a lot of umpires in baseball will use, they will talk away from who they're actually addressing, but you know that they're still talking to that person. So the fan got in the head of Luka Doncic, and from what I heard from someone who actually knew the fan, was Doncic was directing his ire towards the ref. He was just talking to the fan. And so optically, it appeared as if Luka was not talking to the ref, but really he was. And that's a trick that some people will use across sports. You don't want to look like you're doing things. I'm not talking to Devone. I'm talking to Scotty Scheffler, who's about to tee off at the Masters. But really, Devone's a piece of S, and I can't stand him. And he's not someone I want to do a show with from here on out. But people can't see that on YouTube because I'm talking to the television. You know what I mean?
You know what Luka is? He's the perfect Laker to hate for the next 10 to 12 years. He's perfectly positioned.
Yes, he is.
So for us here in the Bay Area that hates anybody that puts on that damn yellow pukey uniform, he is the perfect centerpiece to hate on. Because he's one of those guys, I guess much like that of Draymond Green, if you don't live in the Bay Area, people are like, oh, that dude, yeah, whatever, can't stand him. Same with Luka. Luka talks throughout the entire game, and he whines after every single possession. So once LeBron moves on after a year or so, and he becomes the eye of that storm, perfect. Already hate you, going to hate you that much more because you're with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh, I got to get on LeBron in a second. But Vince has been hanging on for so long. I really want to go to him.
Steve Kerr, LeBron.
Yeah, I got a lot of people I got to get at.
Just shaking your cane at the rain these days, huh?
I don't need a cane yet. Although it would be pretty cool. Give me a Kangol.
Monocle.
A cane. Monocle.
Yeah, a cane and a monocle. You could be like
the Planters?
Mr. Peanut.
What's up, Vince?
Hey, good morning, guys. Real quick, before I get to JK, I just wanted to touch on Jimmy Butler real quick. Earlier, you guys were talking. Somebody called about him not having the same get off. I mean, look, dude, it's the NBA. He's been in the league for a little while. Jordan didn't have the get off. So what did he do? He started hitting that mid range and really started perfecting that fadeaway. And then look at one of the most explosive guys in the league, Vince Carter. When his legs started to give out, he became one of the most efficient three-point shooters in the league. I think Jimmy is finding his own way of getting buckets while also getting guys in foul trouble to help the team slow things down and kind of take control back of the game when momentum starts to shift a little bit. Now to JK, I've been saying for the last couple of seasons, how different is JK from Jalen Green? Because if you take Jalen Green and JK, you swap them, are they going to be the same? Is it the same feel, like franchise-type player? Do you think Jalen Green would be getting more run with the Warriors or not? Because I don't see how JK's style of play with us, a jump shooting team with old guys, is going to work. He wants to get up and down the floor. That'll work with the Rockets, but that won't work with the Warriors because they don't have that rim runner. They get a lot of offensive rebounds and stuff, but that's not really how the Warriors play. Rockets can do that because they're younger. But I don't see how JK is a fit here. I mean, you brought in Jimmy Butler, and then you guys brought up the numbers. They're 22-7 or something like that since he's been here, and JK hasn't been on the floor. What was the Warriors' record when JK was on the floor? You know, it was 500 basketball. So Steve Kerr said it last year. Him and Andrew Wiggins couldn't play together at the same time. And he's saying the same thing again now with Jimmy Butler. I don't know if there's a beef there or what's going on with JK, because there's no doubt physically this guy is gifted. He can play. He knows how to play basketball. But I just think the biggest issue with him on the team is what's between his ears. I don't think his basketball IQ is where Steve Kerr wants it to be, which is why he can't trust him in certain situations. And that's why there's comfort, I feel like, with having Jimmy Butler on the floor versus JK. I mean, the turnovers are down. There's better decisions being made. Either a good look or a better look is being taken, or you're getting to the free throw line and making your free throws. Jimmy's also, I think, a better free throw shooter than JK.
Yeah.
So I just don't know. I don't know what the future is, like you guys are saying, but I don't want to let him walk. I think you need to try to come up with some kind of sign and trade if that's possible, so you get something for him. Don't let him just hit free agency and get nothing in return.
Yeah. Thanks, Vince. Appreciate the call. A couple things. Well, number one, we're going to talk about his future and the future of the Warriors a whole lot when the season is up. But they got one more regular season game tomorrow at 12:30 against the Clippers. That's going to determine essentially their postseason or play-in path and perhaps how far they go. The Jalen Green thing to me is a little unfair because
Go ahead.
Well, they play different positions. Like, I actually think that Green would play more on this team.
He's better.
Well, he's better, but he also is a guard. The Warriors don't have guards. What they have is a whole hell of a lot of forwards, which is one of the reasons why Kuminga isn't playing as much. And that's why I think that Butler blocks Kuminga. And for right now and for next season, that's who they're all in on. And so I don't know if you bring him back. I don't know. That's something we'll talk about down the line. But in regards to the postseason, dude, if Jimmy Butler's playing 38 minutes a game, which he has in games that Kerr has really tried to go for, that doesn't leave a lot of room for anybody at the 4 spot. You know.
Can you name me 2 players that were really good that couldn't play with one another?
That were really good that couldn't play with one another. There were good players that just couldn't play because they played the same position. My point is, it doesn't happen. That if you're a good player, you will assimilate with the team. For crying out loud, Chris Paul went to Houston with James Harden at the time. Everybody's like, what are you doing? James Harden's so ball dominant. So is Chris. Good players know how to play with one another. I would say, well, this is a good one from YouTube, F2P, Booker and Beal.
No, Bradley Beal's just bad.
That's what I'm saying, but they can't play together.
No, it has nothing to do with
that guy averaged 30 back-to-back seasons.
With Booker, it's just Bradley Beal checked out. He got a non-trade deal. He loves Phoenix, and he's just he's just a bad player. Whatever happened to Bradley Beal? But my point is that
Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris.
If Jonathan Kuminga had it going, I don't think Butler has anything to do with that one way or the other. Maybe he doesn't get as many minutes, but this begins and ends with Butler and or Kerr.
Yeah, I think Steve Kerr has made his choice.
It begins and ends with Kuminga and or Kerr, not Butler. This is if Jonathan Kuminga was playing well.
Well, I just don't want to do this every time that they play poorly. It's like, who should they have played more? They have told us who their 5 that they sink or swim with is going to be. And I think their rotation is pretty set, too. That's actually one of the reasons I do feel confident that the Warriors might be able to make a run, more so than I was even a few weeks ago. I think they have a top 8 or top 9. And that is Curry, Pods, Moody, Butler, Draymond. And the next 3 off the bench, in no particular order, would be Post, Kuminga, GP2, and then Hield is kind of the 9th guy. So that's who they're going to live and die with. And I think at full strength, they got an opportunity to mix and match against particular teams and sizes and shapes. And they can beat the Lakers if they get them in the first round. I think if they even fall to the play-in, ideally you beat Memphis in that first game so you get 4 days of rest. I think they can beat Houston in a 7-game series. Beyond that, I'm not so sure. But I do like the chances of the Warriors to win their first round postseason series no matter who they play.
Speaking of Houston.
Assuming it's not OKC.
Amen Thompson is your DPOY, man.
Dude, this is why I love you, man.
You disagree?
No, I don't. I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And actually, I'm going to tell you why on the other side.
All these things, the tease is
we got to hit a break here.
I still want to hear about Kerr and Buddy
Hield. Oh, yeah. I got to write these down, man. I tease so many things and then I get lost. See, because you distract me with the great conversation that we get into. Also, we got awesome callers we got to get to as well. Rich, I didn't get a chance to get to Rich. Mitch.
We will do Defensive Player of the Year talk.
Okay. All right. Let's do it on the other side of Warriors this week.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
Yeah, I felt like Chris Vernon watching the Warriors Trailblazers last night, Dan, because I'm looking at Delano Banton, Justin Minaya, Dwap Reith, Sidi Sissoko. We don't know you.
Yeah, who were those guys?
I don't know.
I just want to go home.
We got 3 minutes of Pat Spencer. Yuri Collins got some tick. Braxton Key.
Yeah, Pat Spencer's got a little brother in the NBA.
Yeah, he was the one that went at it with Kevin Durant.
Oh, that's right.
He got in KD's face. Wow. It's like that family just, they're actually the ones like, I don't know. Like you played enough pickup basketball to know, you can kind of recognize who's good and who's not. Like in 10 years when Pat Spencer is done playing basketball, that dude's going to be the best pickup player on any court he steps onto. And everyone's going to be like, it's 6'3", this Caucasian. And he's going to dominate.
I hear Stockton was like that back in the day, like in college, when he would pick up basketball games because he just looked like the kid next door. And he would just go and absolutely rip you.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, he probably still played after he was done. I mean, that guy was incredible. All right, let's start out with some callers here. Rich is in Fremont. Rich, what's going on, man? You're on Warriors This Week. How are you?
What's up, guys? Thanks for taking my call. Dan Devone, what's up, baby?
How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Listen, I'm listening to these other callers call in, and I'm sorry, I got to disagree with them. I think moving on from Kuminga is a bad idea, and the reason why is because what's being pointed out regarding Kuminga is based on the setup and what's happening now. We got to consider the fact that this is a kid, and when you bring a kid into this league, you're gambling because you really don't know exactly how this person's going to fit in, let alone to fit into a championship system. Now, if I'm the GM for Golden State, I got to think about the long-term effect of letting a kid like this go. It's like, yes, right now, Kerr is here, Steph is here, Draymond is here. Let me point out the fact that, Draymond's saying, oh, well, we believe we can win a championship right now. And people say, well, why would Draymond say that? Well, Draymond plays for the Golden State Warriors, and that's what he's supposed to think. But understand, the basketball acumen in that squad is higher than Kuminga's for a reason. They've been in the league a long time. They've won titles. They understand the way this works when the playoffs come around, and Kuminga's new. So, him acclimating to this system, no, it's not going to happen as fast as we as Warrior fans think it should. It's going to happen when Kuminga's ready. So if you trade him to somebody else, yeah, he's going to be taking skill someplace else. The problem is you are giving up what this team could be after, Curry's gone, after Draymond's gone. We don't know that Butler is ready to stay on for a 4-year run. We only know he signed for 2. So if he decides to go elsewhere and these 2 guys retire, then what do you have? You got Moody. Who else you got? You got Post. And then you got Kuminga. So if you keep Kuminga and Curry and Draymond, for whatever reason, retire, and Butler goes someplace else, and who knows? We don't know that Curry's going to resign. Kuminga's is part of that future. So you don't give him up now simply because it's not working out. You keep what you have, and you keep him for the future. That's the way I see it. Thanks, guys.
I got you, Rich. Yeah, I'm a little more with Rich than the others. I think people are calling in and asking for Kuminga to go because that's what's best for him. But what's best for the Warriors, I don't think they've figured out what his potential is, and who knows what's going to happen in the future. But we differ on what's going to happen right now. You think he needs to be a big part of this postseason run. I think he can play a role in particular matchups, but the body language I've seen from the head coach tells me that that's probably not going to happen. I think they're going to be led by how far Curry, Butler, and Draymond take them, along with potentially Pajemski and Moses Moody.
I think that Jonathan Kuminga has to be an integral part of this team offensively for you to have a serious shot. He has to be the other guy that can give you the consistent 18 points a contest, not named Steph Curry. And then throw in what Jimmy Butler's doing and what you're getting from Podziemski, and then everybody else, Quentin Post, erupts for a night. And then you have the semblance of a team that can be very, very good. That's go along with their commitment to defense. But Jonathan Kuminga has got to be a scoring option on this team, in my estimation, for you to have any shot in the postseason.
Speaking of Steve Kerr.
Oh, here we go.
All right.
The tease that we've been waiting, that you've been teasing this since last Tuesday.
Well, we also got to talk about the DPOY thing. But for now, so during the Phoenix win, there was a viral moment on TNT of Steve Kerr.
Oh, God, I got to shoot you down on this, too, but go ahead.
Stop it. Buddy Hield came down the court and evidently didn't see Curry open in the corner, didn't pass it to him, jacked up a shot, missed. So during the next time out, Kerr decided to have some fun with him and say, Buddy, let me introduce you to Steph Curry. He's the greatest shooter in the world when he's open passing the ball.
That's kind of funny. Come on.
No. This is what, it's all fun and games at Buddy's expense. Because everybody looks at him like he's the court jester. And I told you this. I texted you this. Every king needs a jester. Every single castle needs a moment of comedic relief. And everyone thinks that that's just Buddy Hield's role on this team. Well, let me tell you what. If the Warriors are going to make a run, they're going to need Buddy to have a couple of big games.
Agreed.
If I'm Buddy Hield and my head coach treats me like that, I'm shooting it the next 5 times down. Buddy Hield, though, by the way, is about to crack 200 threes for this season.
Yes, sir.
For the 7th time in his career, which has only been done by 5 other people. Buddy Hield, you keep underestimating him, but you're going to need him, all right? Just because he looks like he's the pinata now. Well, when he gets a 25-point game against the Lakers or the Rockets in Game 2 or Game 3 and help you see a win a series, and we can talk, all right? Don't mistake kindness for weakness. And just because he's the island boy and he's from the Bahamas and he's got this easygoing nature and he's messing with people in the locker room, everyone thinks they can just step all over Chavano.
Drinking that rum, man.
Get off my guy, all right?
Well, first of all, I think
quit treating him like that.
I think because he's so nice is the reason why Steve obviously went there. But there's a backstory to this. Greg Popovich did the exact same thing to Steve Kerr. So there is levity underlying all of this. Steve Kerr, I forget who the other player was introduced to Steve Kerr. And Popovich said, I want you to meet the best three-point shooter in the league right now. It's Steve Kerr. He was wide open. So he was just stealing a line from Pop. And keep in mind that when he did it, it was, I want to say in the third quarter, they were up by like 40. So there were smiles all the way around.
You can't keep pushing my dude. You can't do it. And everyone, he's the perfect punching bag for fans. And I just hate how everyone, anytime he does something that is...
I would agree with that.
That is perceived as not smart or idiotic, it's like a referendum on his IQ. Like he's a dumb person. Which I actually think one of the reasons why the Warriors did not break during their downfall of a December is because of a guy like Buddy Hield. It's because he's someone that can be even keel and particularly high through even the down times. I think Buddy Hield's value to this team goes far beyond the box score, and it's in the locker room, and that's why he's one of Curry's favorite teammates. Draymond Green came out and said he's his favorite teammate. Steve Kerr loves him.
Everybody loves him.
Because he can just be the guy that takes all this criticism, no matter where he is, if it's in Sacramento, if it's been in Philadelphia, if it's been in Indiana, now in Golden State, he can be the same upbeat guy, the island boy that he is for this basketball team. And I just think we need to appreciate that more.
He is the definition of a role player for that team. Like, he's a role player. I don't think Podziemski's a role player. He's a role player. If he's feeling it, give him the basketball. Let him score. But Podziemski has become, I don't associate Moody and Podziemski together. And I know a lot of people like to associate those two and could join him at the hip. I think Podziemski has become, he's emerging as a star in this league. Maybe not an all-star.
Okay, Joe Lacob.
But he is untouchable again. What I see that guy do defensively, like
Pods?
He is so smart, man. And he's become an efficient scorer now. Now that he's got that mid-range down, and then he's got the Karate Kid little deceleration to the lane.
Oh, I hate that.
You'd probably, we haven't talked about it, but I'm assuming you do.
The deceleration needs to die. It does. It just needs to die. First of all, the one he had against, who was it? Was it Houston? The one where that has to be a travel. Like, it just has to be.
Where he hung on to that pivot foot forever?
He hung on to the first pivot foot
but I don't
for
think
3 seconds.
I don't think he switched.
No, and then he went to the other one, and then he let 2 guys go by, and he laid it up. It might not have been against Houston, but there is one decel, and it's like that has got to be illegal. We have never seen someone move that slow on a Euro step, and that's why it's allowed. But his celebration that he does, first of all, what I don't like about Pods, I've come around on them more, but what I don't like about Pods is how much he ends on the floor on every single offensive possession to the point where he can't get his ass back on defense.
Oh, he gets back.
Not in time. Did you see Chris Paul go by him in the Spurs game? Chris Paul's 85, Dan. Chris Paul is a simple crossover getting downhill, just a little 1-2 UTEP 2-step to the rim. Yeah, Pods has been awesome for this team.
Pods can dunk.
That is one of my favorite drops that I have cut. That's in my drop Hall of Fame. Pods plays below the rim, and like he's actually, I think he is transforming into a player that's going to be important for this team. But his role on this team is more important than Jordan Poole's was for the championship team. And Jordan Poole was awesome in 22. Like, at the beginning of the playoffs, Jordan Poole basically helped you win a series. Can Pods be a player that can help you win a series?
Oh, hell yes.
Man, that's a lot of pressure. I don't know.
Man, I don't know what it is that you have against this kid.
I'm jealous. I told you this 3 months ago. I'm jealous.
Let's get into the DPOY, the Defensive Player of the Year, really quick.
But before we do that, let's clean up some calls.
All right.
Sorry, he's been hanging on for a while. Mitch is in New Jersey. Mitch, what's going on? How we doing?
Mitchie!
How's it going, Evan? Dan, thanks for taking the call. Happy Saturday. I mentioned.
Do you have any gabagool this morning?
Harden, I don't think he doesn't play too well in big games.
Yeah.
So as long as Brandon's shooting, you got to like his game in post. How about this? I say they put in Kuminga and take out Moody. Put Kuminga in the starting lineup. You get a little more size and get experience. See what he's got. You got to keep him. He was a good draft choice. He was number 7, right? And this thing with his playing game. You see how many teams are under 500, especially in the East? 9 and 10 are under 500. It's ridiculous. You should be at least 500 if they even have a chance in the playoffs.
Thanks, Mitch.
I got you, Mitch. Appreciate the call, man. Hope everything's well in New Jersey. Our guy Ken was just out there.
Gabagool.
He went to the Mets opener. Great ballpark, by the way. All right. DPOI conversation. Well, it's more of an agreement. I think we're both in on this.
Defensive Player of the Year goes to...
Drum roll, please. Amen Thompson.
Can I get an amen at the corner?
Can I get an amen at the corner? You can, Dan. But I'm interested to know why Amen Thompson would be your defensive player.
No, you start. You go ahead.
Okay.
First of all, let's keep in mind...
Draymond's going to win this award, by the way.
Yes, Las Vegas has him as the heavy favorite.
Draymond, and I'm not going to go as far as to say he should win the award. Oh, by the way, Uncle Loon, Poole did not have single digits in 2 of those 5 games because he scored 11 in Game 4. How about that? But, what?
No, there's a Pauly Walnuts reference on the... I was just Gabagool and the Sopranos.
Oh, okay. You're talking about me with a monocle and a top hat over here. I don't know if I like that. So the thing about Amen Thompson, I'm going to take Draymond's, let's call it his PR tour for DPOI, right? When did it all start?
Jimmy Butler.
Oh, no, I would say it started when he neutralized Giannis Antetokounmpo. A few weeks back.
Perfect.
He had like 14 points. He took him out of the game, right? And after that, Draymond said, yes, I should be in the DPOI conversation. And he shot up the odds chart. And he's been awesome defensively. I think they've been the number 2 defensive rating since Jimmy Butler's gotten here. And Butler has not just unlocked Pods, Moody, Curry. He's unlocked Draymond defensively. Let's say that. If that is Draymond's pièce de résistance of his DPOY campaign, what Amen Thompson did to Steph Curry on Sunday is better than what Draymond did to Giannis. Curry has been killing everyone. He has been arguably the most impactful offensive player since Butler's arrival at the beginning of February. And Amen Thompson took him out. That's why they won that game. And if you're looking at individual performances to prop up and say, this is why I deserve DPOY, which is essentially what Draymond did to get all the eyes on him, that to me is the best performance I've seen this season defensively.
Well, you're looking at it through one game. And that one game, he did stand out. And let's also recognize, first of all, Draymond Green is, you know why I hate postseason awards almost as much when we talk about scheduling and the greatest of all time? It's so inconsequential. I do not give a rip about any of that stuff. Draymond Green is dialed in defensively, and as Warriors fans, that's all you should concern yourself about, is that Draymond Green is ready to play defense. And when you get this version of Draymond, he is very, very good. But this is the reason why he's not the Defensive Player of the Year. And it's not just isolated to one contest. But he has a bigger platform, right? And he uses that platform, that being his podcast, where he makes these declarations that I am the Defensive Player of the Year. And there's Baron Davis stoned out of his gourd just saying,
you love this podcast.
But here's and I know we all got to see, and I don't watch the NBA maybe as much as you or other people, but I do keep an eye on other teams. Amen Thompson's been doing this all year long. Amen Thompson's been locking up the opposing team's best player all year long. I would argue that Draymond got interested when Jimmy Butler came on board. That Draymond Green, after that 12-3 start and the team was bad for nearly 3 months, was not the best defensive player in the NBA. And this award is about the totality of the season, not just over the last month, where Draymond has been very good. And I would argue that Amen Thompson, even isolated to that 1 month, has been better. Here's the other thing, is that Draymond's barely qualifying. You got to play 65 games in order to be qualified to become the Defensive Player of the Year.
He has.
Amen Thompson's around 70. Amen Thompson's played nearly 200 more minutes than Draymond Green. Amen Thompson has been turning dudes from day one. That's not an indictment that Draymond's not good or we don't like Draymond. No, again, this is why I hate Defensive Player of the Year and postseason awards, including the MVP. It means nothing. Draymond is ready to go and do what it is that he does for the Golden State Warriors. But in terms of this award, give it to the kid from Houston, even though he ain't going to get it.
No, he's not. And I think the runner-ups are probably going to be Evan Mobley and Dyson Daniels. Yeah. Daniels has been awesome this year. I think like the way that I generally look at regular season awards is who's the best player in that category for the team that's won the most games. So I think Evan Mobley is probably the most, I guess, like the paper pick. You know, Cleveland's been awesome this year. But people look at the fact that he has Jared Allen and someone else to help him defend, and Draymond is someone that kind of singularly does it around the rim. I think it's Thompson too because, and this is, again, when it comes back to Draymond's entire campaign has been based around the last 30 games since Butler's gotten here. Thompson, when that team really took off and started to play the high level of defense, which, by the way, I think they're number 4 in defensive rating in the league for the entire season, was when Amen Thompson began to start. And he's only started, I think, 40 games. He's played 32 minutes per night over the 70 you're talking about, but he only began to start midway through the season, a little less than. But if we're looking at a small sample size, because that's what Draymond's DPOY campaign is based off of, I would argue that Amen Thompson has been just as, if not more, impactful. And I also don't think it's a coincidence that Draymond's, to your point, DPOY level play has coincided with the arrival of Jimmy Butler. And he's been awesome. The Warriors defensively have been very good. I just think that Amen has been incredible. Like, if you're thinking about the players that they've gone against, it's pretty equal to me, but Thompson's just, I'm sorry, man. And people are going to say that he was fouling Curry or grabbing him and stuff. It's like, that's what happens in the playoffs. It gets physical. And that player right there, someone who can take Curry out of a game, even if it's only one, that's the dude that I want.
Let's get some calls.
All right, let's go to Jan in Mountain View. Jan, good morning. How we doing?
Oh, fine, Evan. How are you doing? And Dan?
Fantastic.
Okay, what I wanted to bring up is something I heard the other day, and that would be is that when Curry is on the floor, that's when maybe Kuminga could be on the floor and Jimmy sits, because what I'm going to bring up is that tomorrow they're going to be face guarding Curry, I believe, quite a bit, and you're going to need Kuminga near that rim to have Curry throw him an alley-oop. And I think alley-oops are going to be a big factor tomorrow because of how they're going to be guarding the Clippers are going to be guarding the Warriors. And I'm because Ty Lue knows all about this team, and they've beat us 3 times. And if we don't win that game tomorrow, we're going to be in the 7th seed, and they need that rest. But not only that, I heard Grandy last night saying that if Minnesota wins, who plays Utah, and that the Clippers beat us, we're in the 7th seed. But if we beat the Clippers and Minnesota wins, the Clippers are the 7th seed. And you most certainly need everybody to chip in tomorrow, and Kuminga has to be a big factor in that. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Jan. Yeah, well, I still don't look at tomorrow as a must-win for the Warriors, but you put a lot of pressure on yourself in that Tuesday game against probably Memphis to win that game.
But isn't it fun that people are talking about and previewing a game, like pointing at this game? Like, it's just 12:30 will be blocked out throughout the Bay Area because people are how many times have we been doing this show and somebody has talked about a game that they're about to play? Usually we're talking about games that they played or games previously played that week, but looking ahead just gives you a little insight how people are circling this game. Like this, it's coming. I love basketball like this. High-intensity basketball, so much fun.
Well, that's why the playoffs are the best. I mean, the postseason's the best in every single sport because everything gets ratcheted up, but very rarely do we have these kinds of regular season games that matter, especially down the stretch, and one in which I think the Clippers are going to go for this game, just like the Warriors are, because they have a chance to earn a first-round home series if they win. And for the Warriors, you want to avoid the play-in. I don't know if it's at all costs, but you're going to get the best effort from both of these teams. And it also appears as if the Clippers are playing their best basketball. And while the Warriors stumbled a little bit last week, I think that they're, like, we know who they are now. It's not as if they're trying to figure it out. And that's unfortunately why, to Jan's point about Kuminga, I feel like his role is not going to be as large, just because I think we've seen he's going to get 15 to 20 minutes. And if he plays well, he'll get more. And if he doesn't, then he won't play as much. But, you know, my bigger question is, like, can Moody break out of his three-point shooting funk? He shot 27% his last 14 games, or around 30%. You know, Paz has had a little bit of a tough time shooting threes. Can Curry give you 35? Can Butler get to the free throw? Can Draymond play DPOY level basketball? Those are the questions that I have. And if people have bigger ones, we'll take them on the other side. 888-957-9570 is the number. Let's dig into this Warriors-Clippers matchup a little bit on 95.7 The Game.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
Do I really look like Mr. Peanut shaking his cane while smiling?
I haven't seen the picture.
Oh, I thought I showed you during the break.
No, sorry.
I thought you were more familiar with this than I was. The planners guy.
No, I just think, what do they call that? It'd be a great affectation if you were to get a cane, start rocking the cane. You don't need it. I'm just saying. Like, I saw a guy the other night, a friend of mine actually, shout out Juan.
With a cane?
No, but he had this hat on, like a fedora. And he looked sharp. I'm like, I was giving him crap, obviously, and I'm like, whoa, that actually, you're popping with that thing.
Well, you still got some nice hair. Like, you don't wear a lot of hats, I bet.
Never. The hats are usually...
Even beanies, like you're out in NYC and it's cold?
Well, hell yeah. No, that's... Yeah,
or earmuffs?
That's
you seem like an earmuffs guy.
I do have earmuffs. There's a difference for wearing a hat for warmth and wearing a hat for show. Like, if you see a dude wearing a hat excessively, they're usually covering something up.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
I grew up playing baseball, so you just wear hats all the time. It's just kind of a customary
in college,
thing.
I had a hat on constantly because that was.
You have a bad hair day. Maybe you don't shower, which you don't really seem like the kind of guy. Like you, maybe it's because you're.
What do you think I am over here?
Well, you're a television guy.
Talking about over here.
No, you seem like you're always well manicured.
He's an Italian.
And a Hawaiian. Takes after his appearance.
Yeah, it's very different medium when you're talking about radio and television.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Earl's in San Francisco. Welcome to Warriors This Week, Earl. You're on with Evan and Dan.
You ugly bastards who can never work on television.
Great show.
What's up, Earl?
I was telling the producer that as listening to the show, I heard several callers that caused me to almost crash my car.
Oh, no.
Especially Rich and the guy from North Carolina. I couldn't disagree with them more. I think Kuminga has snake bitten the team ever since he called that press conference and called Coach Kerr out. And so now they had to play him. His trade value is almost zero. He's a low budget Giannis, and in my opinion, his free throwing is inconsistent. His 3-pointers are inconsistent. Even his short range is inconsistent, and he does not rebound. So I would like to ask Mr. Rich to call back and explain to me how I am wrong. We will see the value of Kuminga at the end of the season and see what teams are clamoring for him. But to my limited basketball IQ, I think he's a busted draft. There are 8 players that were drafted behind him that are doing exceptionally well, and 3 of them are on the Houston Rockets, 22 years old, and they ran over the Warriors. So please, that is my take, and thank you.
Appreciate it, Earl. Hey, don't sell yourself short. We got the most knowledgeable fans in the world.
He sounded like Isaiah Thomas.
Oh, that's what I forgot. LeBron. Isaiah Thomas had the best rant of the season on NBA TV. I think it was last night. LeBron was on the court shooting with his shirt off before the game, and Isaiah just. He wasn't even hot about it. Like, he didn't yell or anything. Just the sound of disgust. Yeah. He was disgusted with LeBron James. And there aren't a lot of people that can really go after LeBron where I feel like it means something. But if you're getting Zeke, who's like just the most professional person in the world, to tell you, what are we doing? And I'm kind of with him.
I am too. I didn't think about it until he sort of highlighted him. Like,
you should be fine.
Why is that accepted?
You can just go out there with your shirt off. Like, this isn't pickup. This is the NBA. And more than that, LeBron James is the face or one of the faces of the NBA. Like, we're talking about how we got an issue with the way that John Moran goes about his business, or some of these young players who don't represent the league as well and kind of do what they want or speak out. Or it's like, well, yeah, no crap. They're looking at LeBron James shooting with his shirt off in a do-rag and sweatpants before the second to last game of the season. He clearly doesn't care about this game. He doesn't care about what people are looking at in the league. And it's a bad look. I don't know. I also agreed with, I think it was Steve Smith who brought up that coaches should go back to wearing suits. There's just a level of professionalism that I think leagues should carry themselves with, and that was not a good look.
That was a great take. Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with Isaiah more.
Yeah.
He's right. You're representing the league, man. You can't, and we see it so often that it's just sort of, and I think it's just sort of isolated to him. Part of it is because, I mean, he wants to show people what his upper torso looks like.
Well, and I get it. He's in great shape at age 40. No, he's in great shape. But he also does that, like people do interviews in locker rooms with their shirt off, and I get it. You're after the game. Maybe you don't want to go shower. You want to get it out of the way.
After the game, if you're going to go into the locker room,
no one goes to the podium with their shirt off. So why are you out there taking jump shots with your shirt off? Just me.
Well, he's going to be replaced by another guy that we all hate.
Who?
No, I'm just saying like that. That's part of why I don't like LeBron. And saying you don't like LeBron, it's sort of silly because he's such a good player, and I think he's a good guy, and he keeps his nose clean, and he's been a remarkable ambassador for the sport. But it's things like that, and he's just so disingenuous. He's manufactured. His interview with Pat McAfee just made me want to be like Isaiah Thomas, the guy who just called in and wanted to crash my car as well.
Easy. Hey, Earl, 2 hands, 10 and 2. Take it easy. It looks like we got a caller who wants to chime in on this. John's in Walnut Creek. What's going on?
Why, were we reaching there? We needed a caller?
I guess.
Yeah, I heard it, and I had to call in right away here. LeBron James is LeBron James. He's the greatest player of all time. That's debatable, but we're talking about him shooting with his shirt off in pregame. I gotta go back to not a game. We're not talking about a game. We're not talking about practice even. We're not talking about practice. We talking about pregame. Let the guy shoot. let the man shoot. Let him play.
Thanks, John.
Fair enough. I like it.
No,
I like it.
Look, everyone's got their opinions. I just don't like the face of my league acting like a high schooler.
Yeah, you can't. You have to think about, what's his name? What's the caller's name?
John,
you just have to think about this from an image standpoint. Like, image is everything. Branding is everything. There's a reason why you can do certain things in the NFL and you can wear, certain clothing in the NFL. All of this stuff is highly regulated. And so when your best player goes out there, granted, it's a pregame, but you have no shirt on. Like Isaiah said, this isn't the YMCA in the middle of the summer. You are representative of the league, of what is, at the end of the day, something that is trying to create an image, and it's about, making money. There's a revenue part of all of this, and there is a certain code, and there's a certain sort of dignity that when you sign up to play this sport, that you have to abide by. And that's one of which, and it's sort of an unspoken rule, and I would like to see it actually become an actual rule, that if you're going to play for the NBA or be involved in an NBA contest, that you can't do that. And I get it. Maybe I hope this isn't a disconnect with today's fans, that today's players have a lot of latitude, but going out there without a shirt on, as innocuous as that might sound, it's representative of the entire league and the history of the league, and it should be a non-starter.
There's a reason why there's a dress code. There is a reason why, and this is, honestly, this isn't just an NBA thing. It's across all industries. I can't walk in here and do this show in a tank top. I can't show up for work, even if I'm not on the air. Let's say, to the caller's point, I'm sitting in the green room preparing for the show with you and Steven. I'm not going to show up without a shirt, especially if it's my job. If I'm going to, some sort of finance business, like there's a dress code. You don't show up and misrepresent your organization, or in the case of LeBron James, who's far bigger than any of these other people, represent your league. Because next thing you know, you might have other players taking it a step further. You can't do that. And yeah, you're right. It might see something that's small or a little kind of itty bitty thing, but it's bigger than that. And so I think the NBA it wants to be seen as a professional league. It is. It's $1 billion corporation. And selling guys shooting with their shirts off, it's like, what's the difference between you and pickup basketball?
Well, and it's LeBron James, so it's one of the reasons why nobody has probably brought it to anybody's attention until now. But imagine if it's, I don't know, give me a lumpy NBA player. What if it's Luka? It's got a gut out there. You're like, ugh, put your shirt on. Or if it's Zion Williamson or somebody bigger, and it's a bit of an eyesore. I bet you a lot of people are going to sit up and take notice.
Oh, people don't like this one. 510, no shoes, no shirt, no service. What is it? They kind of make fun of it. Like, you remember in Major League when they're going to the restaurant?
Yeah.
Willie Mays Hayes and
Wesley Snipes.
Jake Taylor. I'm just thinking of the characters. Taylor, Hayes, and Charlie Sheen's character.
Yeah.
And it's tie only. And so Charlie Sheen shows up in a cutoff jean jacket with just a tie around him. And then they're walking like, what are you wearing, dude? And he's tie only. That's how you get around it. Just put a shirt on.
We wear hats and sleeves at this level, son.
Yes. Shout out my guy. Was it Brown?
Lou Brown.
Oscar's in Stockton. What's up, Oscar? How we doing?
What's going on, fellas? Man, what's wrong with everybody calling in today talking about Jonathan Kuminga? Check this out. This is the Warrior organization. We are a championship organization. He came to a team with raw talent. So we're not going to try to sit up here and keep on talking about Jonathan Kuminga. It's Steph Curry team. We know, Steve Kerr know what he's doing. Did you guys watch the game last night? Yes, he's on the wrong organization, but we drafted him. He got to adapt to the system, and that's what the problem is right now. So I don't want everybody keep on talking about Jonathan Kuminga this, Jonathan Kuminga that. He's going to learn from this. And the guy from North Carolina, everybody just talking about Kuminga. It's the Warriors. Not as a one-man team. It's the Warriors, man. So he needs to get off with that, man. I don't understand why everybody wants these young kids to come straight out of high school and can become a star at 22 years old. First of all, your fundamentals has to be right, and that's why he's not playing a lot, man. People got to understand that. He doesn't have that right now. That don't mean that we don't need him, but we're going to need him in certain situations because other than that, he will make key mistakes when we don't need him. And everybody talking about LeBron James. That looked as stupid yesterday, coming out there with his shirt off. He always does that, just like he did on the Pat McAfee show. LeBron is fake, and I hope the Warriors give him the first round so we can knock him and Luka out. Everybody have a good day. I'm off to Chico State to watch my son run today.
Hell yeah.
Go Warriors.
There we go, Oscar.
Got me going.
Oh, they used to be, are they still the dirt bags?
Chico State?
Yeah.
No, Chico State is...
I thought Long Beach was the Dirtbags.
Oh, Long Beach State. Sorry about that.
Yeah. They used to be the 49ers.
Yeah, Long Beach State used to have some dogs. They had Evan Longoria and Troy Tulowitzki on the same side of the infield.
Wow.
Chico Wildcats.
Wildcats. Oh, that's right. He said it at the end. He said cats. My bad, Oscar. Good luck to your son today. Appreciate you calling him. Yeah.
Chico State used to be the #1 party school for years when I was growing up.
Still is.
Is it? Like Playboy magazine.
I thought it was like Ole Miss or something. I mean, every year they rank them. I don't know how you determine what the #1 party school is. But we did take a couple weekend trips down to Chico.
They go hard, apparently, in Aaron Rodgers country.
Yes, they do. Well, there's nothing else to do.
Well, what are you going to do in Oxford, Mississippi? Same thing.
That's what I'm saying. It's not a whole lot else besides Southern Bells and Southern Brews. 888-957-9570 is the number. How are you feeling about tomorrow, Dan, by the way, the Clippers game?
I'm really looking forward to it. And I start there because it's just, again, it's exciting to have this, albeit a regular season game, to look forward to a regular season game like this. We haven't done this in a while. I think it's just important to sort of take a step back and go, God, I'm just so glad that relevant basketball has returned, man.
Well, it felt like we got that in succession with, was it Memphis, the Lakers, Denver, and then Houston?
Yeah, but did it have this level of excitement? I know that, it's 2020 hindsight, but I just feel as though that with Jimmy Butler, and sort of you pointed this out, like this season has been like none other. in terms of the roller coaster and where they were at one point and then in the doldrums and now back. It's been a wild ride. So I guess, okay, so you want me to break down? I hate doing this stuff, but
well, we don't have to do the preview, but what do you think is there just more than seeding on the line to you? Like, are you reading any more into the matchup than that?
Well, the Clippers are one of the teams that are going to be a good barometer to see just how good you are because they have not faced one another since Kawhi Leonard's been back and since Jimmy Butler's been on the team. So it's interesting in that regard to see just, can the Warriors take on what has really been the big bad wolf in the West over the last month? It's going to be interesting on that front. But I do think, to answer your question, that you have got to get a week's rest for this team, and this team in particular. Everybody wants rest this time of the year, but nobody needs it more than that of the Warriors. So seeding, yes, is first and foremost when I think about this game because the Warriors need to get into the playoffs and be one of the top 6 seeds. They do not need the worst thing they could do is to play a basketball game on Tuesday and then lose that game and have to play another game on Thursday.
Yeah, that's to me the needle that it's a really delicate one you're trying to thread. I actually don't think that losing on Sunday is the end of the world because I believe, we talked about this, but I think they could beat the Lakers and the Rockets in a 7-game series. Both will be really tough, but I think they could beat both of those teams. But that means that you cannot lose a one and done. And the Warriors have struggled in playing games. They're 0-3. And you never know what could happen in a single game elimination. I think that's why Steph he set it up as game 7 tomorrow, but it's like that's how they got to approach it. Like potentially the end of their season, but you obviously get a mulligan because you kind of get 2 more cracks at it. I mean, the seeding is big, but I think just in general, right, the Warriors proved that they could beat Denver, who's kind of been their kryptonite. They beat Memphis, who is they've struggled at FedEx Forum. They've been able to beat them in Golden State, but they've really struggled on the road against Memphis. They beat the Lakers, who are a different version of themselves now without Anthony Davis. I know they lost to Houston, but they've had pretty good success against them this season, even without Jimmy Butler. OKC, I know they're 2-1 against them, but they didn't play with Chet, and obviously the Warriors didn't have Jimmy, but I still think that's going to be tough. The matchup with the Clippers they've been a real thorn in the Warriors' side. And so, in addition to just the seeding and what's on the line there, I think if the Warriors can't beat the Clippers tomorrow, it's going to be hard for me to believe that they can make a deep run. But if they do beat a team that is giving them fits, then to me the sky would be the limit. I think the game is that important.
And the fact that it comes down to this again, if they don't beat the Clippers and have to get into the play-in game, it's because of that loss to San Antonio. And one of the reasons why they lost to San Antonio, Steph has been amazing, all right? We love Steph, but his turnovers, man. I always say this. He is one of the most, if not the most frustrating superstar I've ever witnessed. Guy is amazing, but at the same time, some of his left-handed, cross-court, no-look, one-handed passes, just like, oh, God, bro, when are you ever going to eradicate that from your game? You want to get a caller before you get out of here?
Oh, yeah, let's do it. Bo's in East Oakland. Bo, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Hope y'all having a great Saturday morning. I'm off to this campsite up and headed to Mount Diablo. Ready to go chill with some good folks. But, yeah, I just wanted to talk about give my thoughts on the Warriors-Clipper matchup. Looking back I looked at their records last night against the potential matchups. Either of these teams that we might be facing, the Clippers, Lakers, Denver Nuggets, we all took L's. And one thing that they have in common, they have bigs except Lakers, well, how they're using Jackson Hayes. They're using him like they used Tyson Chandler, and I'm just concerned about those matchups. I feel like Clinton Post was, and I've been rooting for him to try, to get in that lineup. But him and Trace Jackson, Trace Jackson, I feel like they haven't been getting that run like they were supposed to get prepared for the playoffs, and I think that's where we're going to have some issues at. That's all I want to say. Oh, and then Kuminga, I do feel like when Blake called earlier, I do feel like people have a right to speak on Kuminga, man, because, I mean, he's been in the league since he was 18, 19 years old, and his development hasn't came, close to seeing a ceiling yet. So it is what it is, man. Y'all have a good one.
Appreciate it, Bo. Have fun out camping, Mount Diablo. It's a nice day. Yeah, look, the Kuminga thing is something we're going to talk about. He's just a lightning rod. He's polarizing as ever, and everyone's got a different opinion. But the fact is, the Warriors, I think, are in a pretty good spot with him in his current role. They've proven that they can win without him, with him, and if he's playing his best, he can elevate him. So, I think tomorrow, I don't know what his role is going to be, but I think what tomorrow is going to come down to is, how do the Warriors play against, again, a team that has a lot of length? Those are the teams that have given them fits, that have given them trouble. Zubats people may not think about him as a problem, but he is an issue for the Golden State Warriors. And he's been playing awesome basketball as of late. Kawhi Leonard has always been a problem. Norman Powell is a problem. James Harden, when minimized, and doesn't have to do it all by himself, he plays really good.
Say it.
And Ben Simmons. I forgot where you wanted me to go there. And Ben Simmons, when he's helping you off the bench, they're not the Los Angeles has-beens. They're playing good basketball, and they're a team that believes that they got action in the West too.
Yeah,
there's like 7 teams that probably believe they can come out of the West.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. They've been really, really, really good. I mean, for those that haven't seen the Clippers play over the last couple of weeks, I want to say it's not just the defense. Offensively, man, they're outscoring teams. They're just, listen, usually when you're if you're in the East is sort of representative of what the conferences typically look like, is that if you're the first or second seed, you're just breezing to the semifinals, right? But if you're in the West, man, you do not want to play. Would you want to, if the Clippers somehow slip into a playing game, like the bottom rung of the ladder of the West, whether it's the Warriors, whether it's the Clippers, whether it's Minnesota, good luck. If you're Houston or if you're even OKC and you draw one of those teams in the first round, or even, it's just, it is not going to be. I said this, I don't know if you were here for this. So my bold prediction is that the number 1 seeds in the respective conferences won't make it to the NBA Finals this year.
I would agree with you on that in the East. What is it about OKC that you've seen in games like this that you're like? They're freaking good. That's
no, in games like this though. I'm talking about the postseason.
I think they learned their lesson from last year. I think those players that weren't hitting shots against Dallas are, and I think that defensively they're the best team in basketball. And I think that plays in the postseason. But I could be wrong. But we'll have to talk about it, of course, next weekend when the playoffs actually start. Next time we see each other, Dan, next Saturday, we will have postseason basketball, and I cannot wait. But the Warriors are taking on the Clippers tomorrow. 6th seed if they win, playing if they lose. And Dan's going to have you for the remaining segment coming up until noon here, along with the Pasta. Pasta, you're going to have to get in here and help him out on 95.7 The Game.
Bob Costas in the NBA on NBC. If I'm NBC and I've got the contract, because they have all these new deals, right? The contract, their television contract was up, and they got all these new deals, which is why TNT lost their deal. It's going to ESPN, and why you're not going to see, that Charles Barkley and company on TNT any longer. If I'm somebody that got the new deal for the NBA next year, I'm calling it Mr. Silver, and I'm like, you need to fix this, all right? You need to fix the last month of the season and this tanking, where a lot of teams are resting players for the postseason, or a lot of teams are just simply playing for Cooper Flag, and they're tanking. And they're trying to disguise it with injuries, fake injuries, but whatever the reason is, you have to fix that, because that's a problem that other sports don't have to deal with. But in terms of the play-in tournament, that's one of the things that I think they hit on. That works. As far as, the NBA tournament, that thing they do in the middle of the season, yeah, that needs a lot of work.
That's a gimmick. And I agree with you. I do agree, and I do think that it gives more markets an opportunity to experience playoff basketball, or if you want to consider it playoff basketball. But I also think that it's one of those fun, it's like the fun relative that comes over for the holiday that you're excited to see, but you also like to rag on. Because nobody wants to play in this play-in tournament. You want to avoid it if you're a play-in team. That's why there's so much conversation this past week, the past 2 weeks about seeding, is because it's just it's havoc. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I'm looking at it with the not a great lens, but you
won't be ragging on your grandmother when you go to see her in Mountain View today, will you?
Absolutely not. Yes. No.
Mountain
She'll
View.
rag on me though.
When I hear Mountain View, I think of only one thing, because I'm a city guy. Don't leave the city. I'm like Woody Allen unless I have to catch a flight. But Mountain View, all I think of is St. Francis. Didn't they build that city just like a couple of years ago?
Yeah, so St. Francis High School, actually, if I'm not mistaken, they invested very early in Snapchat, and they cashed in when Snapchat became
Are you kidding
very
me?
popular.
What do you mean the school did? They have a fund? They have a VC arm?
They have something where they invested in Snapchat, and it ended up cashing in. They cashed in. I want to say maybe close to $10 million or something. So
you being a Reardon guy, come with me. It's another reason why we don't like St. Francis.
Exactly. You know what? I don't like SI, Dan, but we could bond together for that cause.
But at least we have the city streets that we have in common, right?
Yeah.
No. Even though you grew up down in, I don't know, where the hell you were down in Pacifica. Catching waves.
Still
yeah. Is that within city limits? I don't think so.
I don't know.
So, when we talk about the big game coming up tomorrow, we all know that it should not have come down to this. The Warriors should already be in. But they lost that game to San Antonio. And this is a take that I wanted to get out there. I forgot to go after my man, Ev. Ev would have come back at me with something. So it's probably better that he's not here. By the way, I missed him not being here the last couple of weeks. Anyways.
He's driving right now, so he heard you probably.
Oh, is he listening?
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
I don't know. See, here's the thing, man. That San Antonio loss, you know why it was frustrating? Is because Steph Curry turned the ball over late in the game. And Steph Curry always turns the ball over at some point. Steph Curry's listen. You're going as far as Steph Curry takes you. He hurt his thumb last night, and everybody had to be with the collective just holding their breath, like, "Oh God, please come back!" Because if Steph is out, it's done. All right, it's pretty much true for every team out there in the NBA. If you lose your best player this time of the year, but especially for the Golden State Warriors, who are about one player, and it's Steph Curry centric. But Steph turned the ball over late in that game against San Antonio. And it sort of gets back to Steve Kerr. Because turnovers, I always believe, listen, the NBA and sports for the most part, it's about the players. But especially in the NBA, when it's about 5 dudes. As a coach, yeah, you can have some X's and O's and do things a little bit differently. But it's essentially the players are going to determine whether or not you're going to win games. Now, you got to create the right culture. There has to be buy-in. And the players have to respect you. And if you can create that and the GM gets the right players, well, then you'll be good. But the one thing that I do believe that there's a cause and effect in when it comes to the NBA is turnovers. Turnovers are one of those things that are either tolerated or they're not tolerated. And turnovers are a cultural thing. I do, and I've always said this about Steve Kerr, that if you're turning the ball over, either you should get pulled, reprimanded, or the few times you do practice throughout the course of a season, it's got to be, you know, like when you play football or what have you, and you have a practice, going back to my high school days, we would always practice what it is that we struggled with the most. Whether it was, you know, we would start practice with special teams for the first 20 minutes. But when I just see it happen repeatedly, time and time again, I think Steve Kerr is one of those guys. He's sort of, you know, he's an old school coach, but at the same time, he's very much part of the new generation where you cannot get in the face of today's players. And that's not what I'm advising him to do. I mean, Steve Kerr is a cerebral guy and he sees big picture. And again, he has to respect the players and the players have to respect him. And the way you do that is by supporting them. And it's one of the reasons why, I think part of the reason why you saw Malone get bounced in Denver. It's part of the reason why you saw Brown out in Sacramento. They had a little old school in them and they were a bit temperamental. They wanted to challenge players. And I don't think there's any room for that in today's NBA. And I think partially it's why, you know, Steve Kerr has been so tolerant, because it's not just relegated to this year or that particular game, but turnovers, and I get it. Part of it is because of the way the Warriors play. It's conducive to sort of their chaotic up and down transitional basketball. And so you're going to have a higher number of turnovers than the average basketball team. But there's a sort of freedom that I think Steph Curry and Draymond Green know that they can do this and there isn't going to be any reprimand or there's not going to be the other shoe that's going to drop. And I think that's part of what Steve Kerr has created, and that's not a good thing. Now, I don't want him to be Bobby Knight because that just simply doesn't work in 2025. But I wouldn't mind if there's a little bit of, hey, listen, that isn't tolerated. That's a non-starter. You just turn the ball over, and I have to make you aware of that. And I don't know whether that's during the next timeout or pulling him. You can't pull him in the closing moments of that game against San Antonio. But having it be an issue, and not just after one game, but throughout the entire season, I do think you would see the turnovers mitigated to a certain point. Because there just seems to be absolute free reign that I can drop a behind the back, no look pass at whatever point in the ball game, and it could get picked off, and I might be a little bit disgruntled, but that's just sort of the way we play, and there's a level of acceptance at the authoritative level. And when I saw Steph turn the ball over in the closing moments in that loss to San Antonio, I'm like, those are preventable mistakes. Why does it continually be accepted within the Golden State Warriors, and namely within the Steve Kerr dynasty, what has been a dynasty at times? And it's just, I think at some point it comes back to haunt you. And I cringe when I think about the playoffs and you get into a big game in a game 7 and, you know, or an elimination game and it's some silly turnover that they've been able to get away with throughout the entire season that could cost you, the entire campaign. I just think it's preventable.
And it's because they've done it before. It's because Steph and Draymond have done this before and it's been successful before. But it's also been successful with a different offense. And I agree with you. And they were a lot younger when this was successful. And this is an offense that right now cannot afford to turn over the ball. Not just because tomorrow's a must-win and there's Game 7 feels, but also because their offense is not fully firing at all cylinders, right? You know, Podziemski didn't have his best scoring game. Moody needs to kind of pick it up a little bit. So there's a lot to lose when you're turning over the ball. And I think the San Antonio game, what was there, the inbound pass that ended up getting stolen? And that was lazy. That one, you could make the argument that it cost them the game. There's a few things there in that sequence that you know caused them to have that game get away from them, but the turnovers were pretty big. I'm reading
on the text line here, gagged for flags. A lot of teams are tanking for Cooper Flag. You know, I got to tell you, just a quick NCAA tournament. Congratulations to Florida, just to revisit that for a moment. I actually found myself, and I didn't think I would ever live long enough to say this, I actually cheered for Duke. I was pulling for Duke. And I'm one of those people that can't stand Duke.
You mentioned that last week.
Did I? But this Shire, he's a good dude as a head coach. And Cooper Flagg is likable. I don't know, man. I feel bad for Duke. I can't believe I'm saying that.
So is there a Duke issue because of...
I just hate them.
Their previous... Just because they're Duke?
Yeah, they're Duke. They're privileged.
Did you like Coach K?
Bunch of rich kids. I didn't like Coach K. I didn't like the rat. I didn't like anybody who looks like a rat. I didn't like Coach K, greatest coach in the history of the NCAA as far as I'm concerned. But I like his predecessor. I like his successor, rather. I like Mike Shire. I think seems like a good guy. I couldn't say, I'm like, am I really pulling for Duke? I was. The one thing, I can't talk about the NCAA tournament without getting this off my chest. Are they sponsored by Capital One? The Capital One commercials? Like, those have to be the corniest, stupidest things I have ever seen. Now, listen, usually for big sporting events, the Super Bowl, the commercials, when it gets this visible, are usually clever. They're usually witty. And when I think about Spike Lee, who else takes part of that? Charles Barkley.
Are you in good hands?
Samuel Jackson. Now, this is Capital One. So Samuel Jackson, Spike Lee, and Charles Barkley. Now they incorporated Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Spike Lee is one of the greatest directors of my lifetime. Samuel Jackson, Pulp Fiction. Are you kidding me? A legendary actor.
One of the greatest movies of all time.
And Charles Barkley, say what you will about him, but he's witty. He's awake. He knows what's up. How could they accept that script? Did Spike Lee have absolutely no influence? Because it is so corny. And then I see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in a little ice cream truck. I'm like, have we lost our collective damn minds?
I need you to tell me how you really feel.
I'm telling you, I'm like, this Capital One commercials with those three for the last, 5 years we're going on this? I have never giggled at one of them. I'm like, God, that's so embarrassing. Like, that is so stupid. And there's so much potential there when you see, oh, wow, Spike Lee's in a commercial alongside Samuel L. Jackson and Charles Barkley. This is going to be worth watching. This is going to be funny. And then they come up with like the corniest lines.
And it does make you wonder that what did they sign up for this, or were they told something else?
There's money. It's money, Pasta. You'll find this out. When you get out there and become a journalist for whomever, money dictates all this. It's the only reason Charles Barkley gets out of bed. Somebody gave him millions upon millions of dollars to do this. And Charles, just like any of those guys, are like, I'll read whatever you want me to read, brother. I don't care how stupid this is. You're paying me how much?
Well, he says on the air that he's not interested in working. So working so many days a week, I should say.
Yeah, God bless him, man.
Because when they go to ESPN, that guy's going to be on every show, and he's not going to like it.
No, they won't do that to Barkley. I will promise you they will not do that to Barkley. In fact, he's had issue with that. He's done some shtick on, like, man, one of the reasons I don't want to go to ESPN because I don't want to be doing shows on ESPN 9 or 10, and he's talking about those guys that you see on all those multiple shows. I promise you he won't be doing that. He won't sign up. They'll be one and done. They'll do their show, and that's it. But yeah, the Capital One commercials, man. I can't wait till the tournament next year. But my God, those things were pretty stupid. But keeping it to the Golden State Warriors, man, big one coming up tomorrow. You know the drill. You beat the Clippers, and you get the week off. And you're into the playoffs. You're one of the top 6 teams. Not only that, but you're going into the postseason with a level of momentum. And it's a feel-good. And there's a sense of confidence that you can beat anybody in the conference, including OKC. I've said this on numerous occasions. They can get got this year. Maybe next year? No. At some point, the light's going to go on. They're going to get enough battle scars where you ain't going to touch. I don't think OKC for the next 5 years is going to be their conference. This year, I still think the door's ajar. But tomorrow is going to be huge. You got to beat the Clippers. If you lose to the Clippers and you're in the play-in game on Tuesday, you got to be the number 7 seed, and then you still have another 4, maybe 5 days off. But it all comes down to tomorrow. You know the drill. You can hear it all right here on 95.7 The Game. It's the Warriors. It's the Clippers. Enough said. You win. You get in to the playoffs. For my man Pasta, for Evan Giddings, who's driving somewhere to call yet another baseball game, go Broncos. Shout out Santa Clara. This is Dan Devone. Until next week. So long, everybody.